Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain. La-da-da-da-dee. Da-da-da-da-da. Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain. La-da-da-da-dee. Da-da-da-da-da. Drums keep pounding.
What's going on, guys? We are back for another live stream with Mitch on the mic. Sooner or later, I'm going to work out the exact controls of this, and we're going to have a professional-looking stream. Probably not in the next couple of months, I would say. Anyway, so we got a big lot of discussions on our hand today. We're going to be talking all about the RCRA national titles being held down at Southern Districts down in South Australia. So we've got a fair few people to join us throughout the stream today. We're going to be running over information recommendations for the track, information when it comes to, like, say, tyre choice, how the tyres wear. We've got some local guys that are going to help us through that as well, because obviously my own knowledge of that track is very, very limited. Couple of drivers that are going to be joining us. Obviously, it was pretty much in the overlay, I guess, for the stream itself, but we're going to have Andrew. Andrew's going to be pretty much guiding us as pretty much a co-host for this episode. He's got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to that track, being, you know, a local driver and actually being on the committee of the club down there. So he's going to be pretty much helping us out through the entire stream. You know, we're also going to have people like Jaden Edmonds, Zach Ryan, and also Aaron Dexter from over in Western Australia. He's going to be joining us a little bit later when the time suits him a little bit better. Also, guys, whilst the stream is going, feel free to ask any questions throughout the stream, whether it be directed towards the driver that's on at the time or just in general as well. I mean, first question up, Jared Cook is asking if there's going to be any bump ups. So, yep, for Nitro, there definitely will be bump ups. We did have bump ups for electric over in Western Australia. So they may be looking at running a similar thing here. I think we had bump ups for electric. I can't quite remember, to be honest. So yeah, we'll definitely have bump ups at least for the Nitro classes. Any other questions just before we pretty much really kick things off? Aaron Ford will be on in just a second, hopefully. And we will officially kick things off. But yeah, it's looking like a great event. So just basics on the event. Nominations have closed for the event now. Payments are due by Monday. Failing to pay by that date will incur a $30 fee. So make sure, drivers, if you are entered and looking to go down, you've got everything sorted, make sure you pay before Monday. So this weekend, realistically, it's all you got. $30 fee will be applied after that. 141 drivers have entered. So once again, I know that I had a look through the list before. There were quite a fair few drivers that hadn't actually paid yet. So make sure you guys do pay. Apart from that, let's see. That pretty much covers off everything. So hopefully any second now, Andrew will be back. But yeah, any other questions and stuff you have, guys, once again, ask them throughout the stream. We'll get the drivers to answer questions, you know, talk about setups, that sort of side of things as we go on through. It's just going to be a bit of a general chat and information when it comes to what's going to go on down at the Nationals. Now, let's see. But where is he? Also, whilst you're watching on and stuff, guys, once we get onto the drivers, massive help for us is liking, sharing, and just commenting in general. Just any sort of general chit-chat questions, by all means, it really does help out the stream. So feel free to ask those questions away at any point throughout the stream, and, you know, help spread Mitch on the mic and also the hobby itself. The more viewers we get throughout the stream, the more awareness we can potentially get for the wider audience of our hobby. So it's looking like a great week down in South Australia. So obviously we're kicking things off with practice on the 21st, running through to the 24th for finals day. Coverage, I do believe there is going to be a form of live coverage. I know that Tony from RCRA Media is going to be down there working with RCRA for at least interviews, that sort of side of things. Obviously, I'm going to be on the mic for the whole weekend. I'll probably have no voice by the end of the weekend, which is going to be great. But it's looking like a great weekend of racing. I know some of the big name entries. You know, you have Kyle McBride's going to be down there, current national champion of Alex Bernardzik. Also, a couple of guys that are going to be on the stream tonight. Jaden Edmonds is going to be down there. 40, they're both local legends. Aaron Dexter, as I mentioned before, he's coming onto the stream. He's going to be over there as well. So we're going to get a fair bit of point of view from their side as we go on tonight. All right. We'll any second now, Andrew Ford will hopefully be on here. He's taking his sweet time, that's for sure. Where is he? Everyone tag him. If you're watching on, make sure you tag Aaron Ford and tell him to get on because he was meant to be on 10 minutes ago. We were only just having a chat. Literally a couple of minutes ago, we're having a chat and he goes, yeah, I'll be back. Here he comes. All right. We got him. We got him, guys. All right. Welcome to the stage, Aaron Ford. And there he is. Turn your phone 90 degrees and we'll be right to go if you can.
You want me to turn it the other way?
Yeah, just turn it 90 if you can.
I got a full setup here. I got like tires balancing it. So
I
let's try this
should
again.
have what we were talking. There we go. That looks instantly better.
What's
Mr.
that
Andrew
like?
Ford.
So,
There we go.
hey mate, how are you?
Yeah, good yourself. You're holding us
Very
up.
good,
What's
mate.
going on? We were just talking.
Dude, you said 7:10. It's 7. I'm early.
Yeah, no, I should have told you earlier. My bad. I went through my chit chat
Really?
section in about 3 minutes, so that was on me.
Right, you needed
Anyway.
more subjects to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. Typical for me. Mr. Andrew Ford. All right. So introducing Andrew Ford. Anyone that doesn't know you, first of all, introduce yourself and pretty much run along who you are and what you have to do with the hobby.
Right. So for those who don't know me, my name's Andrew Ford. Live in South Australia. I've been racing a long time. I started racing 8-scale off-road in 2006, but I was racing a little bit of 10-scale nitro on road before then. So I've been racing a long time now. And mostly just raced 8-scale off-road. And the last 8 years, I've worked for O'Reilly Model Products, which is the importer for TLR, OS, Proline, AK, Spectrum. So I'm involved, I guess, on a personal level, like racing, and in like still race, still like it. And then like professionally, I work for the company that bring in a lot of products. So I manage our race teams, manage those sort of brands for our race teams, and yeah, it's a pretty interesting job, and then get to do it for like my hobby as well. So I really probably couldn't ask for a better situation, to be fair.
Yeah. And now I've got a little bit of information I scratched up on you earlier as well. I think you were a bit surprised when you saw it in the script. Your first car was a Tamiya Super Hornet, and you were racing that, or at least running that around, I'm guessing, your backyard or parks at 5 years old.
I was 5. Yeah, I was 5. Yeah, my dad built that for me like Christmas Eve. My dad's like pretty loose unit, so he decided that Christmas Eve was the time he should build this model car, and he built it. He was up till like 4 a.m. building my first car. I was only 5, so I got that when I was 5, and yeah, that was sick. I got one, you know this, but for the viewers at home, recently I acquired a brand new Tamiya Super Hornet, which I was pretty jacked up on. And it's brand new. The stickers are a bit munted because it's been stored for years, but the car itself has never been driven. And it's like in working order. I haven't driven it yet. And I also got a Dash Saber, which for the older guys in the group would probably recognize that. Those little stick radios, that was the exact radio I had as well. So Yeah, that was pretty cool. I don't know how you found that out, but yeah, that was my first car.
I dug deep into the interwebs to find that information out.
Yeah,
Some
sick,
really
man.
old forums, that's for sure. Oh,
Yeah,
I
private
stumbled
investigator.
across
I
it and
like
went,
it.
oh yeah, no, it's cool. I like
Yeah,
it. And so I was mentioning before as well, you're a local, so obviously Southern Districts Model Car Club, and you mentioned before as well, you're actually now on the committee itself as well. So you have a lot of inside information about, how the actual Nationals is going to be run, the track itself, the whole works and jerks, right?
yeah, man. So it's nationals are held at Southern Districts Model Car Club, which is my local track, my local club. It's a minute away from me, so didn't move here intentionally. And I'm on the committee now, so it's been good. Just a general committee member, but involved in the organisation of the of this event. So yeah, any questions anyone has about the Nats, about the track, fire away, and I'll be able to answer that for you.
Yeah, epic. Um, I want to know, just from your personal point of view, what are your sort of expectations from results? Do you have sort of a general expectation? Who do you think is going to be the top 10, top 3 even coming into the event?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this one's interesting. Kyle McBride and Alex Benadzik, both of them apparently don't know how to use a computer, and as of my knowledge, neither of them have entered yet.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I spoke to Alex's dad the other day. He's ordered fuel, so Alex has to do the entry, not Pete, his dad. So I assume Alex is coming because I got a box of fuel coming to my work for you. And Kyle messaged me about fuel like an hour ago. So I assume they're both coming. So with that in mind, top 3 prediction, Alex, Kyle, and then third is pretty open slather, man. Locally, we have Jaden Edmonds, Damon Davis Perry, and young Zach Foster, and myself. And over the last year, our big events have just been incredible battle. Like Jaden won state titles. I won 3 weeks ago at RCGP. Zach's beaten me for podiums at big events here. Damon raced me for most of the main at RCGP. I was chasing him for a fair bit, so we were like nose and tail. Same with Jaden. So we got a lot of fast locals, is what
Yep.
I'm getting at. Aaron Dexter will be mega quick. I expect him to have actually a really good event. He came here for state titles and he just switched over to TLR. So and anyone who competes at a high level understands that even if you switch to a car that is really good, it still takes time to learn things and understand what you like. And Aaron drives a very specific way. He's a different driver to me. So he's put a lot of effort in at home since then. So he'll be mega quick. Zach Ryan has been here a few times before and now knows the tires and the setup. He'll be mega quick. Caleb's been here a few times. Caleb won here with a Mugen two years ago. He beat all the locals, so he was mega quick. He came back at state titles and he won electric. So he has won here in the last few months. And that was after nationals. In Nitro, he kind of wasn't really on pace at all throughout the whole weekend. But this is for state titles. And then he had an issue in the main. So if he'd figured it out by main time, we kind of didn't get to see it. But he'll be around the mark. Obviously, he's a fantastic driver. So top 3, I think, will be Alex and Kyle. I actually think Alex will win again. I'm a really big Alex fan, so I reckon he's unreal. Kyle will be probably second. And then third could be anyone. Christian Woolhutter has won here. He won RCGP, not the one just gone, but the one before. So there is 5 or 6 drivers that genuinely are mega fast and will have a shot at that third place. And who knows, man? It's nitro racing, right? So anything could happen in the main. And if there was some issues up front, there's about 6 guys that could maybe win. So it's actually going to be probably one of the best events I can think of in recent times. It's going to be good.
Oh, epic. And probably another tough question for you to answer. Who would be a bit of an underdog who you think could surprise a lot of people coming from the event?
Dexter.
Dexter? Yep.
Genuinely, I think that Aaron has. I know he runs the same car as me, so I'm not blowing smoke up his butt just because he drives for us. But he probably has one of the most underrated resumes in 8-scale racing. He's competed internationally. I forget his exact finishing position, but it was early or low 30s at the 2018 Worlds in Perth. Like, I finished 49th, and I know it was his home track, but he drove wicked that meet. Like, mega fast. He drives probably the best main. Like, him and Zach Ryan drive, aside from like Alex and Kyle, but like for the rest of us, him and so Aaron Dexter and Zach Ryan drive the best mains you've seen. Like, they're just so consistent for a whole hour. They'll just punch laps out. Aaron's really good on tires. He's good on fuel. So I think Dexter is the biggest underdog. An underdog, another underdog would be Zach Foster. He's mega fast. He's like 30. He just turned 13, but he is mega fast. He's a good finals driver as well. Him and his dad have got their package pretty sorted for here. And he doesn't set the world alight in qualifying, and Zach and his dad will admit this. In qualifying, he's not normally TQing rounds, but when it comes to the main, they've got it sorted. He's doing fast laps, and he made the main at Sunny Coast Nationals. He made the main in Perth, and he'll make the main again here, no doubt. And he's an underdog for that. Yeah, he's an underdog fighting for the win, honestly. Like, if I think Alex and Kyle are pretty clearly the class of the bunch, but Zach is right up there. So, a big underdog, man.
Yeah, and I think we saw him from the last Nationals as well. Zach had a good run there. It was, surprised a lot of people there and surprised myself, to be honest. He's a quick driver, and he's definitely an upcoming driver that's going to be super quick and probably in the not too distant future. So
he's backwards, man, because like a 13-year-old should be super fast, but not good at driving for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And he's super fast, obviously, but he's mega good at driving for long mains, which is like, man, that was the hardest part of 8-scale, is doing a 30-minute main, like a semi where you have to drive what against the main, and then doing an hour main and just being able to concentrate. He can do it at 13. So he's one to watch for the not too distant future, but even for right now, I'm a big fan of Zach. So.
Yeah. And last point before we get Jaden on, we're actually going to discuss the raffle as well, because the Southern District's crew, they've got a massive list of prizes up for grabs. And best part about it is you don't actually have to be at the event to enter into the raffle. I'll see if I can actually bring it up on screen as well. See how we go with that.
If not, I have it all written down, Mitch. So
yeah. There we go. Try and bring this one up. Let's see how that's come up. There we go. That's worked pretty damn well. All right. So, yeah, massive prize pool of raffle entries.
If you just scroll up, Mitch, up a little bit. For anyone that doesn't know, this is the Southern District's Model Car Club website. So you can buy these tickets online on our website right now. Don't have to be at the event. If you're watching this stream and you think any of these prizes are cool, all the money goes to our club. We put it straight back into the track, into the facility, and just making it better for our members. And there's some really sick prizes. For a $10 ticket, you can win yourself some really expensive and very cool stuff.
Yeah. Like, there's some big prizes in there as well. Like, it's just a really good array of just good prizes. It's one of those things that help to support the club, bring a bit of extra money back into the club. That's the side of things that I think it's a bit underrated when it comes down to it in a lot of ways. But the amount of support that can come from a raffle and the companies that are supporting the club, and that's the side of things. I think we have to really help out the companies that sort of support the clubs. Give back to them. If
it's fine, I'd like to go through it. Yeah, I agree with you entirely, man. Is there out for me to just go through it quickly?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Because what you just said is huge. Like, the raffle as it sits today, and we still have some more things to come, but it's $4,719 worth of product at retail pricing. So, we're pushing on $5,000 worth of gear that we're raffling away. So it's it's a lot of stuff, man. Our event sponsor, which is O'Reilly Motor Products, the company I work for, have been gracious to sponsor the event, as well as provide in the raffle an OS Engines Adam Drake 3 combo. So that's anyone doesn't know, it's about as good as they get from an engine perspective. Engine pipe, that's valued at $640 to buy it right now. That's available. TLR have put in a 8X 2.0, so that's the same car that I drive, that Aaron Dexter drives, that Dakota Fenn drives. That's a $1,150 value prize. That's in there. One $10 ticket could win you that, so you'd be a pretty happy guy. OMP have also put in 2 Spectrum 6295 servos. They go for together, that's another $640 worth of value. And those servos are fantastic. They're the servos that I use. I've used the same set for over a year. They're great. They're excellent servos. So top of the line there. Campbelltown Hobbies have come on board, and they put into the raffle 4 sets of 6 Mick tires, and they've also put in $200 worth of vouchers. They're in $20 voucher form. Campbelltown Hobbies is a massive race store in Australia. They stock a ton of race brands, every brand you can imagine, whether you drive Mugen, Kyosho, Hot Bodies, Associated, X-Ray, Losi, OS, you want J&T, 6 Mick tires, Proline, aka anything you want. One Up Racing, you guys want tools, they sell it. So anything you need, you can use those vouchers for any of those products, which is fantastic. So thank you, Campbelltown Hobbies. Plague Bearings, who've been a huge supporter of our club for a number of years. Thank you, Trev Lockie in Victoria at Plague Bearings. He's put in 5 $50 vouchers and 5 $20 vouchers. So there's huge, and his bearing sets are well priced. He makes sets for virtually every car you could imagine. So if you have a RC car out there and you're watching this stream, buy a ticket, you can get yourself a bearing set, maybe even win a few vouchers, get yourself a couple of bearing sets. So really happy for Plague to be involved again. RC Hobby Zone, who's a local store, they sell, again, a lot of race options, hot race tires, Reds engines, Mugen Seiki, as well as a bunch of other gear. He's put in 3 $50 vouchers, so you can get yourself, if you run Reds, get yourself a glow plug, get yourself some Mugen tools, spare parts for your Mugen car, hot race tires. Won't get you a whole set of tires if you want a $50 voucher, but it'll put a big dent in your tire bill, so that's pretty good of him. And then the guy who owns that store, Scott Foster, he runs a body painting company, so an airbrushing company called Scott's RC Designs. If you want to look that up on Facebook, he has painted literally hundreds of shells. He paints my shells, paints a lot of local guys' shells, paints Jaden's shells. He's actually Jaden's father-in-law, which is a funny fact. But he paints a wicked shell. He's put in 2 $70 body vouchers. So if you win that custom paint job, $70 would pretty much cover it, I think, for most shells. Maybe not the 5th scale shells and bigger, but certainly for 10 scale or 8 scale, $70 would get you a brand new airbrush shell. Excellent work. We've actually had JQ and Invisible Speed come on board as well. They're supporting the raffle. We've got 4 copies of their brand new Invisible Speed 2.0 setup book. I don't know have you ever viewed his information, Mitch?
I've watched a couple of his videos, when he talks about setting up of vehicles and driving styles, that sort of things, but I haven't actually gone into the Invisible Speed side of things. I don't probably drive enough nowadays to require. I do more commentating, but I know it's really good stuff.
Right, I'll tell you from personal experience that the best money you could ever spend on RC that wasn't tires is Invisible Speed. The books contain all of his information. It's unbelievable, actually, how accurate this is. His understanding of cars. If you race and you want to be better, you want to be competitive, read one of these books, buy his course. It is worth every single dollar that you spend on it. I've done it myself. It's fantastic. So thank you very much, JQ. Great guy, and has donated those 4 books. Each of those books are $120 a pop, right? So that's not a cheap, it is cheap for what you're getting, but it's a $120 book you can win for $10. Pretty good odds to me. We also had Hearns Hobbies and the Hobby Man in Victoria. They've been kind enough to donate 2 different hauler bags. So they have it's essentially a car hauler bag. It'll hold like a 10 scale car, as well as like parts bags, excess parts, screws, bearings, all that kind of stuff. And they also have a transmitter bag, which again you can use as a transmitter transport, or you can use as any just organization, engines, etc. So they're really good. They're from Ruby X, and also they have a brand called Nine Step, which does shock and diff oils. They've donated their whole range of diff oils. So again, everyone uses shock and diff oil. Everyone organizes their parts, a prize that anyone could win. And also the last one, before I take up the whole stream, just talking about sponsors, but like you said, very important that we cover it. Hobbies Australia, who do Jetco, have come on board, and they've got 5 sets of Jetco race tires, which is valued at $300. So it's $300 worth of tires, 5 sets. I don't know if we'll raffle them off individually as sets or whether the 5 sets go at once. We'll figure that out, but $10 for a set of tires sounds good to me any day of the week, Mitch.
Yeah. No, it's an epic prize pool. And as mentioned before, you don't have to be at the event. You can do it all online, as you can see here. Just put in your details, the raffle tickets to your amount, $10 a ticket, and it's all right there on the website. So I've put it actually in a link on the comments there as well, guys. If you wanted to just pretty much make it nice and easy for yourself, the links are in the comments. Jump on it, support the club, and also very importantly, support the guys that have supported the club for this event as well.
Yeah, man. We sell this raffle. We put on this event. We hope everyone has a mad time. The track looks unreal. A lot of money to get everything we need to get to host it. So any money you spend in that raffle goes directly back into the club, allows us to kind of cover the money we've spent to make this event as sick as possible. Like you said, not only do you get that, you get to help out a club, but you get to win some really cool stuff from the companies that actually part with money to support this. Like those companies have given up product, which cost them money, just for us to do a bit of advertising for them and then for our club to make some money. So thank you to all of those people. Really appreciate it. And hopefully people get on, buy some tickets. Even if you don't want anything, you support the club. We can redraw it, give it to someone who does want it. Thank you.
Not too easy, mate. All right, we'll pop that one off. And alrighty. So we know Jaden's ready. He's roaring to go. We may as well introduce him. We'll get him on stream here, and we'll have a bit of a chat to Jaden Edmonds. Let's see. There he is. G'day, Jaden. How you going, mate?
Good yourself?
Yeah, good, matey. Now, you've been listening intently into the background. I know we've seen a couple of people wandering by as well. Who you got going on in the background?
Where's my thing dropped out?
We've got the McMillans, Dad, and Anthony Carretti.
I don't have audio.
You've lost audio, Andrew? All right, we can still hear you. You probably won't be able to hear us anyway. So, all right. So, Mr. Jaden Edmonds, you are obviously fairly local to the track, I would say. Oh, we've lost Andrew.
Yeah.
You're local to the track down there, so you know the ins and outs of tire choices and stuff. We're going to run through a lot of that information when it comes to tire choices with you. We got Ty Beale, Louis Ty Beale jumping on, going, "Hey, Rodney Edmonds." Look at that banter going on. So yeah, we'll be able to run through a lot of the information when it comes to tire choice, the track itself, and when Andrew comes back on, we'll run through a lot of that. But a quick chat whilst Andrew's actually gone. You recently had a good run up at Queensland titles up at Logan. How do you enjoy that?
Yeah, it was definitely a different experience up there. Good to get up to Queensland and race with all those past boys. The Beals had us at their house for the weekend, which helped out. The results weren't amazing, but we didn't have Friday practice, so it was just one round of seeding and then into qualifying. So it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. Now, definitely makes it tough when you lose a day of practice, especially when you have, once again, so many fast local drivers and, very big name local drivers as well. A lot of guys that have had quite a lot of track time, so definitely didn't help at all. We did manage to get a single round of practice in the morning of, I think it was 7 minutes practice. So you can at least sort of work out your car setup and stuff. How did you actually find the track? So obviously we started out on a very damp, sort of not muddy track, but it was tacky in a lot of ways. How did you find the track starting off?
It was definitely low grip. And then and there was no tire wear. And then suddenly in the main and the A-main warm-up, tire wear just came up. I think a lot of people came in on slicks.
Yep.
I was definitely one of them. but the car actually got faster on the slicks.
Yeah, right.
So I did my fastest like 6 laps in a row in the last 6 laps of the 45-minute main.
Right. And yeah, that is one of the weird things we don't usually see at Logan is tire wear. So I think it was a bit of a surprise to a lot of even local drivers to see so much tire wear. And a lot of drivers were reporting pretty much slick tires from as close
Yeah.
to the start of the race as 15 minutes. So that was a big surprise. Anyway,
Yeah, we had
okay.
no tire wear all through qualifying at all.
Qualifying. Yeah.
And then
And then all of a sudden just blew up. Yeah. Crazy. Okay. So you're actually driving for the Team Associated nowadays. How are you actually liking the vehicle, especially around Southern Districts at the moment?
yeah, so we swapped over last year. So last year was my first year back with Team Associated. The 8Ks have been crazy. Ever since we put them out on the track at Southern Districts, they've just been so easy to drive. And 10 scales are just as good. Haven't done as much running in 10 scale, but
Yep.
yeah,
No, all
cars
good.
are definitely good.
And what tires do you generally run, say, at the track? Like, as in what brand, at least to start off with?
So I'm sponsored by Matrix Racing Tires. So they only started like about halfway through last year. They came onto the market.
Yep.
And yeah, ever since then I've been running them.
Right, and you're enjoying them, obviously.
Yeah, they've been really good. Obviously, we ran them at Perth. They worked well there. Then they worked pretty well at Logan, and they've worked like crazy good here at Southern District. So
Recent events as well. You actually won the 2023 state titles down at Southern Districts. How'd that go overall? You know, you beat out, Aaron Dexter and Zach Foster once again, as we're talking to Andrew Ford just before that. Both super quick drivers, Zach being a really quick driver around the track a lot of the time. So how'd that all come together?
that was basically a perfect weekend. We've been waiting for it in Nitro. Didn't really have any issues. Top seeded, TQ'd, and won the main. Unfortunately, lost out in EP, but Nitro was the main focus, and we managed to get that one done. So
Yeah.
the whole package just worked so well that whole weekend.
Yeah, and you end up getting, I think it was roughly, from looking at results, it was about a half a lap lead over Aaron Dexter
Yeah.
towards the end. So
Yeah.
car looked comfortable, that sort of things throughout the whole weekend. So that's solid
Yeah, my
result.
car was so easy to drive, fast, consistent.
Yeah, so you're becoming into the Nationals with a fair bit of confidence from that event, especially being that it was fairly late in the year as well. I believe it was in December, was it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was in December, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so not too long ago. I'm guessing you already have a setup pretty much dialed in, ready to go. You don't need to make any changes coming to the day. You're just good to go.
Well, we've only really run the B4.1 once there, and that was at RCGP. And the track surface could be a little bit different for Nationals, obviously, with a bit of a rebuild and oiled surface. Sometimes it's not the highest grip compared to what we're used to, but I've got a pretty good base setup, I think.
Yeah, right. And you actually mentioned there the track rebuild. So how much of a rebuild have they actually done to the track recently?
It's a fair bit. I wouldn't say it's definitely wasn't a flat track and they've rebuilt it. It's maybe half, I'd say.
Yep.
Some of the layout's still the same, but some jumps and changes of flow, definitely. So, yeah.
Right, because I think it actually is in the RCRA 8 scale rules that a 50% track change is mandatory. So, it's good that they've sort of stuck with all that and done everything by the books and stuff. And I know there was a bit of questioning from the Western Australia's Nationals, and it's a pretty pricey endeavor to do a full track change and stuff. So, but nonetheless, it's good to sort of
especially with the oiled surface as well.
Yeah. All right, looks like we got Andrew back on. Let's see if we can add him on in. There we go.
Is that working now?
Look at your sound. I can hear you.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I can hear you guys. So that's good.
All right. So yeah, we were just having a bit of a chat about general information about the track and stuff. So once again, Andrew is going to be our co-host for pretty much the entire thing, as long as he doesn't drop out of sound too many times.
Sure.
But yeah, so
Let
now we
Jaden
got
have the
both of you
spotlight
on.
for a bit.
Yeah, exactly. It worked out pretty well. Had a
He's so pretty.
one-on-one
Look
with
at him.
Jade.
He has to
Yeah,
happen.
look at the hairdo on him. Looks like you got a bit of a mullet going on too.
Is he
It's
awkward as
graceful.
in a hotel room in Keilor with like 5 guys wrenching on cars and there's Jaden in the corner?
They're all sitting outside watching.
Oh, how'd you go today?
It was only practice, but yeah, car's feeling good. So
Yeah, you know we TQ practice. How'd you go?
I don't know. I'm just trying to drive around without crashing.
Yeah.
No one seems to be able to do it at the moment. So it's probably one
it
of the
too hard?
hardest tracks I've ever driven on.
Is that because it's hell grippy?
Yeah, it's very grippy and the layout's like really technical too. So
Lower the roll center.
okay.
Yeah, do it. If your dad knows what that is, but give it a go.
The
I
banter.
might try that. Two
You should try that.
drives tomorrow, and my two drive is very safe and good. So
Yeah, that's
first
good.
time
Good
running
luck,
a new
mate.
car.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alrighty, we'll flick back over to Southern Districts. I'm looking for pretty much both of your point of view when it comes to most of these questions, but we'll sort of start off with the actual the track itself. Now I know we just touched on with Jaden, they've done roughly about a 50% rebuild on the track, but in comparison to majority of 8-scale tracks around Australia, what would you consider the size of the actual track to be?
From a size perspective, it's pretty similar to Pine Hills. It's wide. It's not as deep as Perth. Like Perth is like skinny and really deep. Morphvale is wide and not quite as deep. So very similar to Pine Hills to sort of Logan. As far as like a size perspective, lap times, normally a hot lap on a full layout is like 35, 36 seconds, depending on the layout. I'm not exactly sure what this one will be, but I expect it sort of around that mid to high 30s. So it's quite a big track actually.
Right. And what we were just mentioning before as well, the fact that the track is oiled. So once again, Andrew, being on the committee now, have you had much experience with the oiled tracks as in preparation of them in the past, or is this sort of a fairly new experience to yourself? And how do you prep a track for racing, I guess?
Yeah, good question. No, it's not new for us at all, actually. So it's good. It's an interesting surface to have to rebuild and prep. Like anyone who runs on oil or knows oil tracks, generally speaking, when you rebuild them, you need a lot of oil in that new surface that you've either brought in new dirt or disturbed the dirt. You need a lot of oil to set that section. So we've done that. Our track manager, his name's Dan Morgan. He's been around racing for 3 or 4 years. But he has luckily for us, he has a background in a lot of things, but he used to do civil works, right? So he's been working in a digger professionally before. So he knows his way around machinery. He also knows his way around process. So we've before RCGP, we did a rebuild of one jump section, and that was almost a bit of a test for the committee and for Dan especially on how do we get the best result immediately. How do we prep the surface so that we can hold a race meet on it and it's good? Out of that, so the new section we built, it worked fine. Like it worked really good, but probably a little bit light on oil for the brand new dirt we put down. So the rebuild now has had a lot more oil in the new sections, and Dan and Joel, our president, and Dan Morgan, our track manager, have put in I'm not even kidding. Dan himself has put in, it's well over 150 hours into the track, and Joel's probably put in all of 150 as well. So there's like 300 man hours just from those two fellas doing like sun up, sundown days to get it prepped. It's got enough oil in it. We're going to run on it Sunday, and it should be actually really good. Dan was out there rolling it today again. Like it's getting rolled constantly, getting checked on every day, basically. So come Nationals, it should be money. Like it will be a little bit messy to start off with, as all oil tracks are. I would almost say by the end of Thursday that she'll be looking pretty mint, and it'll stay very consistent. There'll be no tire wear, pretty much at all. So for those guys coming over, you're not going to be rinsing through tires. You're just going to be finding the tire you feel comfortable on, and the grip should start off and just increase from Thursday to Sunday. The grip should just be going up the whole event. So, yeah, it's not new for us. It's something that luckily we're experienced in, and every time we do it, we're learning as well. So, yeah, it's going to be really good as far as an old track goes. A lot of work, but it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, perfect. And Jaden, what I know we mentioned a bit before about tires and stuff, but what tire compound and say tread pattern would you be using for the event?
So most of my running at Southern Districts, we've been using clay compounds. I've actually got a tire right here. I don't know if you can see it that well, but
Yeah, we can see it.
that sort of tread, I think I ran them at RCGP most of the event, and they were really good. Might need a little bit bigger pin to start off. Depends how the track is, obviously. And then maybe bar tires by the end of it. Maybe. Yeah, just all depends on how the track comes up. But yeah, clay compounds are my go-to.
Right. And the difficulty of the track itself, how difficult would you compare it to, say, the average track in Australia?
Jaden can maybe answer what it was before.
I'd say pretty much a middle ground. So probably not as hard as, say, Pine Hills, but yeah, not as hard as Pine Hills, but a little bit harder than something like Logan, I'd say.
Right. Yeah. And
So about it wasn't difficult, but it wasn't easy.
right. And expectations of the new layout?
I expect, like, what Jaden said is pretty bang on. From our old layout that people had come and raced on, it wasn't like, it's not a hard track. In fact, it was quite an easy track. It was very stop start, a lot of hairpins, not a lot of like flowing sections where like corner speed was really critical. But the thing that made it really hard was the grip. And like, I've not driven on a track that gets as grippy as our track gets. It's really out of this world when it gets crazy grippy. And that's the hard part, that for people when they're trying to drive it, it's not that the sections are difficult, it's that trying to drive a car fast without traction rolling is really hard. So from that perspective, it's always been hard to get right during the main. The new layout will be more difficult. We've got a lot more flow into the track, so there's more continuing radius corners. There's more obstacles that aren't hard obstacles, but they're there to reward, I guess, accuracy. And there's also some bigger jump sections that have option lines through them. So there'll be the availability for, the lower grade drivers can get through a section. Like we have a quad section now, which will come out. There'll be photos and videos. But there's a big quad jump, which you can clear. But when we built it, there was a car that went over it and tested it, and we're going to test it this weekend. But the sort of beginner guys can double through it very easily. So I think it'll be a pretty good track overall. Honestly, the surface will be good. The layout itself is interesting. It's fun. The fast guys will have options that they can take and take a bit more risk and go quicker. And the guys, with a bit less skill can still get around, have a great time, but maybe not take the risk that the fast guys are taking. So from a racing perspective, passing zones, wide lanes, it actually should be a really good track for racing and for all the skill levels to drive on.
Yeah, no, exactly. That sounds good. Now, Jaden, you're smiling. I can see something's going on in the background. What's going on in the background?
Yeah, there's a bit of stuff going on in the background. People trying to put me off.
Perfect. But yeah, no, it's looking to be a good weekend. I know we got Andrew sort of predictions, expectations, and stuff from the event. I'll pass it over to Jaden as well. Who's your sort of overall sort of top three? Where is your positioning? Where do you hope to be? And sort of probably an overall top 10, even if you can put that out there.
So mostly I'd agree with 40. Like, I think Alex and Kyle probably are a level above. And then, yeah, third is wide open. I think there's like six guys that could probably finish third. It's probably just who has a good weekend, who picks the right tire, gets their car worked out, doesn't have any issues in the main. I think that's probably the person who's going to finish third. It's not going to be easy, but yeah.
Yep. So roughly the same answer as Andrew from before.
Just
Yeah.
copy my homework,
Not too.
Jaden. Come on.
Yeah, no, you just could have made it look like less obvious. Matt actually just put up a good comment. Gripple was saying a little bit like what we're getting at Sydney RC, pretty much carpet setups, taking steering out. Is that pretty much the same for you guys? I know 8 scale doesn't run too much on carpet, so there's probably not as much comparison between a carpet setup for 8 scale and a carpet setup for 10 scale. But is that sort of what you guys are doing with your cars, stiffing them all up? So where they're just, I guess, traction rolling less, taking that sort of steering out a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. But like our track is still, it's very smooth, but there's still undulation in it. And because you do some of the sections, you do at such high speed, the undulation will unsettle the car. And there's so much grip that you can traction roll. So you can only make the car so stiff and so low before it stops working. So there is this really like fine balance between getting the setup on the car right. And then like Jaden touched on before, like clay tires are dialed, right? And you can go to a bar if the track's there. But if there's any dust on the line, a bar can be almost impossible to drive in that section where there's a bit of dust. So picking the right tire, if someone picks a bar and the track's not quite there, or during the main it gets dustier, which it tends to do. If it's dusty to start off with, it'll get a bit worse throughout an hour main. It's like guys who pick the right tire will be on fire, but you could pick the wrong tire quite easily and still feel really good, but be half a second a lap slower. So it's not easy. It's not quite carpet spec, but a lot of similarities actually.
Yeah, right. No, it's interesting comparison because, as Matt mentioned as well, like you do have a lot more comparison, at least with 10 scale to carpet to dirt sort of setup when you have that extreme high grip. You know, similar to what we have at Chargers. A lot of guys run a very similar sort of carpet setup at Chargers to, as we said, carpet. But it doesn't happen, I guess, as much in off-road, at least in Australia. Probably a little bit more Europe. They have, you know, Astro tracks, that sort of side of things. But yeah, a little bit less in the Australian side of things.
Yeah, it's our track. It's quite unique, man. It's like it's a wicked track to drive on and race on. And like I said earlier, we're very lucky that we have at the moment we have like 4 guys who can all make national A main, no problems, and can battle for a podium at pretty much any event they enter. And then our track is like pretty hardcore as well, so it forces everyone to figure out tires and setups, and like because you can't drive a bad car and win here. Even on a club day, if you show up with the wrong tires, or like your setup's not quite on and the other guy has it and they have the right tire, you won't win. So it's very specific, which will be interesting to see how all the top guys adapt to it. The guys that have, like I know from like my personal view, the guys that run TLR, like they have a big leg up because I've given them a setup to start with, you know, like, and they like Jaden obviously runs AE here. Alex runs at Pine Hill. So they have the AE style. Damon's now running the AE. So, and Jack McMillan, who races electric, he might even be racing gas at Nats, but Jack's like one of the best drivers you've ever seen drive an RC car. He's just not known in the 8 scale scene. But in 10 scale, he will, like, I have no doubt that him and Jaden could go close for a battle for the win and a national title. No problems. Like, they're incredible drivers. They will have a bit of a leg up from setup. So for the guys who don't have locals, Techno doesn't have a local guy to give setup advice. S-Works. So there's a few brands that have fast drivers that maybe don't have that inside info. So it'll be interesting AE, Mugen, and TLR definitely have like the inside information for the setups and getting guys starting off on the right foot.
Yeah. And Jaden as well. Talk us through a couple of changes you guys have made from, say, the kit setup that you currently have on the car now.
Yeah, so mostly we've focused on sway bars. So I've, at state titles last year, I really liked the thick rear sway bar, allowed the car to rotate, which is what I was struggling with. Um, springs, springs is a big thing, and tires. Like tires is the whole thing. If you don't have the right tire, you're not going to be on the pace.
Right. So that's your main sort of things. Oils, that's the sort of things. You know what oils you're running at the moment?
Yeah. I think I'll start with around 45 front, 40 rear, with 8-hole 1.2 front and 8-hole 1.3 rear.
Yeah. And diffs? Did you go pretty hard in the diffs for such a high group track?
I personally don't. I've tried heavy diffs and I don't like them. So I tend to stick to what I know. 10-10-5 is my go-to. That's where I start most of the time. So yeah, that's basically that's my base setup, basically.
Andrew, you looked like you had a bit of a surprised look on your face when you said the diffs then.
Nah, it's funny because we're like pretty opposite as far as what we like, but at the end of the day, there's no like you can skin a cat more than one way. So Jaden's car is different to mine. How he like Jaden has a very different driving style to me as well. So we don't drive the same. We don't have the same inputs. We can go on a track and do very similar lap times and do it a completely different way. So what he does with his diffs and shocks, I'm not like it's different to me, but it's not wrong. Like I'm not going to say it's wrong. It's what he, like you said, it's what he knows, it's what he's used to, and it's how he wants to drive the car. Like he wants the car to feel a certain way. So he's experienced enough to know exactly what he wants out of a car. I think now, like he's done a Worlds, he's raced at a high level, like he's been around the place. He knows what he wants the car to feel like to go fast. Like he knows what fast feels like. And if you're a top driver, this will make a lot of sense. You know when the car's fast. Whether it's easy to drive and fast is a different conversation, but if the car's slow, you know when it feels slow, when it understeers, it doesn't have grip, it doesn't turn, like you know what a fast car feels like. Jaden knows that, so it's different to what I'm running, but it's what he likes, man.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
And it
And
works.
before we
So
let-
go and argue with him about it.
Yeah. Before we let Jaden go, if anyone has any questions or general chit chat and stuff they want to talk with Jaden, feel free to chuck it in the comments. I know Matt has jumped on and said kid set up all day, baby. So what's your comments to that one, Jaden? Kid set up for an A. How do you think it'd go?
That's something that's been going around for a while, and I think I've grown out of that. In the last year or so, we've really started to do testing, try stuff, and improve the car. And I think I've worked out what the car needs. Like I'm feeling what it needs, whereas before we would just rock up, race, and the car would be around the mark, and I'd be happy with it. But now I'm looking for that extra level. So
Yeah. No. That's good. But yeah, and once again, any questions you guys have for Jaden before we let him go, chuck them on quickly. We'll answer them. If not, we really appreciate you jumping on as well, Jaden. Like you currently, as we mentioned before, you're currently racing down at the Keilor Invitational, which is a large event for the 10 scale side of things. Quickly brief us on the sort of the actual racing there. What's the grip level comparison to if you were, say, running an 8 scale around that track to Southern Districts?
I'd say somehow it's got more grip. Like I thought Morphevale was the most grip I've ever driven on. Well, this is like 2 times as much.
Right.
Like the grip levels today were crazy, and tomorrow's gonna be 38 hot. It's definitely gonna be a tough event, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so for anyone that hasn't got any knowledge about the Kilo Invitational, explain the actual way that the Kilo runs.
Yeah, so there's an invite for mod drivers and an invite for stock. So 10 in mod, 10 in stock, and it's separate. There's no qualifying. So in mod, we have obviously 10 drivers. You start in every place once over the 5 rounds in 2 drive, 5 rounds in 4 drive. Random grids every race. So it creates like hectic racing with 10 of the best in Australia, random grids, heads up racing.
Yeah. And we actually just got a good question there from Stephanie. And I'm pretty sure, once again, I think this is to do with Jared Cook. And it just clarified as well, which makes it even easier. But do you go up in shock oil when it gets hotter? And that's to do with, obviously, the 8TH Nationals coming up. You know, what's your sort of impressions when it comes to temperature of the actual ambient temperature to do with oils?
Yeah, I have. Oh, do you want me to answer this, Jaden? Maybe you say
I don't
what you
know.
do next. Yeah, so like with heat, I do. So I go up or down. So I basically like test my shocks and try and develop a baseline setting. And let's say that baseline setting is from like 20 to 30 degrees. Let's say it's there. And then if it's hotter than that, so if like the sun's out and it's 35 or hotter, I'll go probably up like 2.5 weight. And if it goes lower than 20, I'll consider going down. If it's crazy cold, like Canberra, and it's under 10 degrees, maybe go down again. But I kind of only move maybe 2.5 or maybe 5 weight if it's extreme, up and down. But I definitely tune for the temp as well, because it makes a big difference. I think the biggest thing you can do to learn that is if you go for a run and it's a hot day, feel your diffs and your shocks in the pits before you run, and then feel them when you walk off the stand when the car's hot, and they feel polar opposite. They'll go from like maybe thick in the pits, and then after the race, the car feels like it has water in the diffs and shocks. So you get a pretty good idea of like, where does this end up? Should I be thicker than this if it feels soft or bouncy or whatever? But you get a good idea when you feel it when it's hot.
Yeah. And pretty much the same from you, Jaden?
Yeah, not too. We don't really tune for temperature. Obviously, I don't think we get to do as much testing as 40. Obviously, he lives 1 minute away from the track, and we live an hour and 20 minutes from the closest track to us. So most of the time, we focus on just making sure the car's easy, and we haven't really got a base for temperature wise, but I know what works. So I'm confident that my shocks will be around the mark all the time.
Do you
Right.
change it off feel, Jaden? Like if it's like cold and it feels thick on the bench, do you go, I'm going to go down because it feels too stiff? And if it gets really hot and it feels soft, do you change it on feel? Or do you just not change it? Or do you go up when it's mega hot? Like, do you feel it and be like, I need to go up because it feels too soft?
I generally we stick with our oils. I'm confident that when Dad builds it and I tell him what to put in the shocks, that's going to be around the mark, and I stick to that. So
Okay.
yeah,
Fair enough.
and I don't think we've had any issues with temperature and shocks. So
Cold trickle, that's right.
Gold
You ever do with your
Tree
dad 50 laps his way, 50 laps your way? Or
what was that?
you've never seen the movie?
No, I actually haven't. I don't think.
Yeah. If you
Oh
ask your
my
dad, he'll know.
God.
If you ask, is Stewie there with you? If you ask Stewie or your dad, they'll know cold trickle.
Stewie's sitting right next to me.
Yeah, Stewie will know.
All right. Actually, last question for you, Jaden, and we'll get you going. Discuss shocks. What about diffs? I think that sort of does follow along a very similar principle. I think Andrew did touch on that as well a little bit before. I know mine get longer after a long run. So yeah, Andrew definitely touched on that before when it comes to checking the diff before or after a run. So quickly go over that again for Kyle, but yeah, go for it.
I think what you need to understand about diffs is if you really wanted to know how they work, go get an invisible speed course. Like, I'm not saying this because they sponsor out. Yeah, Jack, there we go. That's a W right there. If you want to understand how the diffs work, go do some learning, right? Go get invisible speed and read it. But what you need to understand is that a differential is just splitting power, and silicon oil is affected by temperature. So if you want your diff to split, we've got a guy behind the camera. If you want your diff to split power and silicon oil is affected by temperature, the hotter it gets, the lighter that diff feels. So you need to, if you feel like at the end of the race, your car's starting to diff out or feels like vastly different than it did at the start of the race, it's probably not just shocks. This is 8 scale. It's probably not just shocks. There's also like an element to the diff oil where you can go up to maintain a feeling. So you just want to go like get a feeling, and then if it gets hotter, you have to go up to keep it the same. Otherwise, if it gets too hot, it gets softer. So you need to account for that, especially for diffs. So yeah, I go up in my diffs when it gets hot. To answer your question, I definitely go up when it gets warm. I go up when the grip goes up. And if the grip goes up and it's hot as, I go up even further to kind of counter for it. 20 minutes into a main, I want my car to feel a certain way.
Yeah. No, too easy. And we'll let you go now, Jaden. I appreciate you jumping on whilst you're at quite a large event down south at the moment. And thank you so much for joining us, mate.
Thank you.
You
See you,
want to give a
Jack.
shout out?
All right. See you guys.
All right. There we go. All righty. So yeah, good couple
What a
of talking points
character.
then. Yeah, he's a legend. What a hairdo as well.
He loves
Absolutely mental. Yeah. All right. So bit more of a classic hairdo we'll have coming up now. We got Zach Ryan. He's going to jump on. Let's
Oh.
see. Chuck him on here. Look at the setup of the man. Got a beer in hand, microphone in front, and the full professional layout. So, Zach Ryan, how you going, mate?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, first off, I just want to do a bit of a shout out. Christian Woolatter over in Vietnam at the moment is absolutely dropping bombs. He's sitting in TQ position. I think they've just run Q4. So he's got 2 TQs for a round and a second, and then he got third in that last one. So, man, he is killing it at the moment.
Martin will definitely buy him tea tonight.
Martin has been messaging me pretty much every half an hour, I would say, just to give me an update about how awesome his son's going. So
Martin's jacked up.
He is so pumped at the moment. So, and rightly so. I mean, you know, to go out there and be on the pace that he is, it's pretty exciting. And watch out for the Nationals, baby.
Oh yeah, Christian. I'm just going to take a quick talk break. I'll be back in like 1 minute.
You're right, mate. All right, we'll go back to 101 again. Let's see if we can just pop him out for a second. There we go. So, Mr. Zach Ryan, how have you been, my friend?
I'm good, mate. We've just started doing our rebuild at Pine Hills. So, yeah, ducked down the track this afternoon, and the Bobcat turned up, and we put in a couple of hours. So, busy weekend ahead of us to get ready. And you know, I've over the last couple of days, I've been seeing more messages come in from Joel and Dan, and you know, those guys are putting in an absolute massive effort. You know, and obviously everyone else in the club. So I think we're going to be really surprised at just the quality of track that these guys are putting on. And you know, I love going down to SA. The surface is obviously very similar to what we run on back home. So I think it's going to be a very competitive Nationals. You know, last year was ridiculous, but I think this year is probably going to be a step up, especially a lot of young guys coming through the ranks. And, you know, the likes of Zach Foster and Jaden on their home track will be very fast. And that just adds to the competition. So, yeah, really, really looking forward to these Nationals. And we've had everything booked for months, really. And just to see the amount of effort the club's put on, this is going to be one Nationals to remember. So yeah, bring it on. Let's go.
Yeah, super high grip as well. So a bit of a change from the Western Australian Nationals. So what sort of racing do you expect to see? I know Andrew before said that the surface is going to be, or at least the width of the track, the actual track itself, he thinks is going to be great for racing. How do you think it's going to be with the extremely high grip?
Personally, from what I've experienced, especially because the guys have only really just finished building the track, and they've only just really put a lot of oil into the surface, I think it'll probably take a little bit to come on, to be honest. I think out of the gate, we're probably not going to have a super high grip track. And, that's probably where you don't want to really chase the setup too much, because I think the track will evolve quite rapidly through the weekend. I mean, hopefully, they've got some laps under their belt with the club day, and they've cleaned up the surface. But I think, especially through the weekend when rubber gets laid down, and we certainly see that back home, that you run on it with a big weekend, and by the end of the weekend, it's just so much more grip than when it started. So anyone who's going, just probably be a little bit patient with the setup, and be wary that it will get to high grip, but it probably won't get there straight away. That's just my forecast anyway. So we'll see how we go. But like, I'll probably still be starting with a pretty heavy car, like heavy shocks, heavy diffs, and 90% of the setup is going to be on tire, really. Like, once you get the diffs and shocks set up, like, I'll pretty much be running what I run at home, and it'll just be finding the tire. Certainly last time I ran down in Adelaide, 40 was doing lots of foxing, changing his tires, not really telling me what he's running, and then he was super fast in the final. So I'm sure he's got a couple of wizards up his sleeve that he's going to be trying to pull out in the main, and we'll see. But I think, especially last time we went down there, we didn't have clay compound, and Ben and myself obviously run very similar setups, pretty much identical car, and both of us were struggling for lap speed, and for sure it was the tire. So we're going there with a bit more knowledge from last time we went down there, and we'll certainly have some more rubber selection just to make sure that we can get on pace.
Yeah, brilliant. We'll bring 40 back into it. There we go.
Back.
Yeah, there we are. I've got a couple of different questions and stuff to ask you as well. Now, you actually are part of the Pine Hills committee, which do have a similar sort of preparation for their track as well. I do believe at least you're part of the committee, correct?
Yeah, that's
President.
right.
Yeah.
He's El Presidente. He's the
El Presidente.
King Dingling.
Presidente.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, but really, Ty calls all the shots. Like, I'm just...
Everyone knows Ty Bill's the real president. You just the face.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, we got time jumped on before. Don't have Zach on for too long. He's got a big day tomorrow. So,
Roger, Ty.
yeah. So currently doing the track rebuild, I'm guessing, is what that is referring to.
Yep, all the ropes are up. We're at a position where the Adelaide boys were a couple of weeks ago. So I'm a little bit envious of the position that they're in now, with their track fully dialed and sealed up. But yeah, we'll get there. We certainly have a lot of eager members in our club. So, we'll have lots of people out tomorrow, and many hands make light work. So, we'll have a good weekend, and we'll get the track back in awesome condition and give it enough time to sort of bed in before ABC.
Yeah, so give us a date for the ABC event, because that's one of the largest events for the age scale sort of calendar for Australia, probably apart from the Nationals itself.
Yeah, 10th to 14th of July is our weekend. So at the moment, we've pretty much reached our entry cap. There's just a couple of spots remaining in a few classes just to maximize the last heat of each of the classes. So I think there's like 5 or 6 spots in GP buggy and EP buggy, and a few other spots. So, yeah, probably only 10 or 15 spots remaining. So, 264 entered and paid so far. So, we've got some exciting drivers. We've got 4 Yanks coming over, and obviously a couple of guys from the Philippines are coming over, and then a really big cohort from New Zealand. So I guess the surprise when we went to round 1 is just how much their young cohorts coming along. They're really picking up their pace. So I'm looking forward to I guess racing against them on sort of our style of surface. I haven't really run on the New Zealand surface, which is quite bumpy and sort of slippery to some degree. So yeah, we got Philippines coming up, and Nationals, and then ABC Pine Hills that are all smooth high bite, which is pretty much I guess my forte when it comes to track conditions. So yeah, a good 3 months, I suppose, of racing coming up. And I can see Fordy's grinning there because I'm sure he's got some extra secrets on tyres that he's probably not willing to divulge through a live stream. But if you do
I'll tell
see him
you
at the
Monday
track,
after Nationals, Zach.
I've got it written down what you ran at the last time I
Doesn't
raced
matter.
there. So.
Doesn't matter. It's changed since then, mate.
Okay.
It's on
Yeah,
a
no, that's
whole
fine.
different level now. Actually, I've already told you. You already know it, or you're just using that as an excuse. You already know what the dial tire is. You're foxing me now.
I'm not foxing you, mate. I wouldn't do that.
Diff gears are in order. Let's go.
We do have a few secrets up our sleeve that we obviously won't release until probably Sunday at about midday, 1 o'clock, depending on when the final is. So looking forward to sneaking that out of the bag and putting that on the car. And
you tell me 10 minutes after the main when we're having a beer what the secret setup was.
No, I'll pretty much just yell it across the driver's stand. Like, man, these tires are going pretty good. Lapping Andrew Ford.
Yeah. I'll be there for that, Zach. Don't worry.
Have you put new diff gears in, or are you saving that for after the final?
I tell you what, Zach. We ran RCGP. No issues, mate. It's
they've got it sorted now. No excuses.
It's dialed. Finished the whole race. It was good, and the tire choice is secret. So.
What happened in WA? Just quick refresher for your main. What happened there? Besides you being stupid. Or...
besides the stupidity, obviously, there was a bit of a clutch issue. So we didn't have a good time, but that's okay. 2023 is done. The year of horrible results is done, and we move forwards to 2024. Zach?
Okay, so have you gone to a different clutch, or was it like user error? Like you put the spring backwards or something? Or
nah, just a broken spring. So we'll change that.
Good man. Oh, here he is. The man, the myth, the legend, Martin Woolhutter online.
There you go.
G'day, Mon.
He wasn't a bad driver back in his day either. I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember that. But there was a period where Martin was the creme de la creme of Australia.
He was. And he's actually coming out of retirement. ABC in Philippines. He's taking the truggy out, supposedly. So
I've seen Martin drive recently, and it's not what it used to be, put it that way.
Mate, I'm looking forward to this, and I'll be watching on the driver's stand next to him if I can. So... yeah, bring it on. He
drove my car at like a race 2 years ago. After the race was over, he drove my buggy after the main. I've never replaced so many parts, man. Martin had a field day with it.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see.
He was my hero as a child, though. So
I think with a truggy, big
get
wheels, he should be right. He should be able to see it at least.
Oh, truggy's cheating for him.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back on topic. I'm gonna have to try and bring you guys back on track. You're gonna have to dish out penalties earlier on. All right, Zach. I've actually got something. Whilst it's on topic for what I have in script, it's off topic from the actual Nationals itself. Now, you actually have a YouTube channel, and you've done a fair few like a good couple of professional videos on there. And probably one that I have to bring up is your beginner's guide to RC racing. The actual video itself, I rewatched it just earlier, and it's a really good presentation of, our hobby, how to get into our hobby, the 8 scale side especially. You mentioned, I think, a little bit about the 10 scale side or other forms of racing, but just, a full rundown of everything from buying which brand you want, or which brand supplies the best to the track, practice, qualifying, and racing. Where'd you actually come up with that idea, and sort of how'd you sort of put it into form?
Well, I suppose, when you're running club meets or, being part of a committee, you get a lot of questions all the time around what car do I run? And 90% of the time you see people turn up and who have even been racing for a fair period of time. And you can see that they're not really across how the qualifying system works. So I decided to just sort of put that together, and like I've done like a racing guide book before, but I think 90% of people don't read these days, and they just want to watch videos. So try to put it in a video form and make it somewhat interesting. And I'm probably not the best person on camera, but it's a guide there that I can point people to, that they can check it out. And the thing that really grinds my gears is watching people line up on the grid in a qualifier, and then just have 10 cars just start together and just smash into each other in the first corner. So I try to explain, hey, you probably don't need to do that. You can actually find space on the track, and all you need to do is beat the first person who crosses the line before they cross the line again. So you've got, typically, depending on the track length, average track, say 35 seconds. That first driver crosses the loop, you've got 35 seconds to just mull around on the track and find space. And the idea behind the video is just education, really, and hopefully make the racing scene better in Australia. And I guess that's the idea. Whether it changes people's habits or not, but yeah, hopefully 40 watches it and changes what he does, I suppose.
Zach, I've told you this before. You're one of the greatest. I think you've done a lot for RC in Australia in the last 5 years, and none more so than the East Coast Nats idea, which turned into ABC, which has turned into, we can say this now because it's quite clear, but there's a bit over 100 more entries to ABC than we have to the national titles. So take from that what you will, whether people want to do a format like that or whatever the decision is, whether it's Queensland has more races, but more people are attending or entering ABC than they are the national titles. So it's a hell of an effort.
And I appreciate that. And I think it's probably a good segue because, I have sort of seen some commentary about, it's not good that ABC is sort of can take away from, sanctioned events and whatnot. And that is certainly the last thing that I'd ever want to do. I think we should have more racing in Australia, and sanctioned and non-sanctioned events. Anything that's going to bring more exposure and good racing to Australia is a benefit. I've been to probably 20 Australian titles, and I'm certainly going to keep going to them. I love the Australian titles, and the more opportunity that we have to race together competitively across Australia is going to be beneficial, especially with the amount of young talent that we've got. And we've always, the piece that we wanted to do at East Coast Nationals that we couldn't really do was the media and the commentary piece. And to have Scotty Ernst come together on that and bring the race time media and all of his crew, Action RC, doing awesome commentary through the weekend. Like, it's just a complete package. And there's a lot that goes on in the background that's certainly more than what I do. So it's just cool to have an event like that in Australia. They have the DNC or Silver State in America, and it's pretty hard really to go to a meeting like that. And if we can have some sort of draw car in Australia and get a few pros interested in coming over, and mainly that the manufacturers see some value in it. So that's the piece that Scotty Ernst fills in. He's obviously got such good contacts, and that's why there's a draw card to have hopefully more professionals come and race in Australia. And that means if you're racing in Australia and you're interested, you don't need to go and spend a couple of grand to go to America. Maybe you can do it in Australia and get that experience at home.
If it makes you feel any better, Zach, from a committee standpoint, we're the club that's hosting the national titles, and not one person that's involved with our committee looks at ABC as a negative. We don't look at it as competition for our event or that it takes away from our ability to attract people to an event. So I think anyone that has that opinion is a little bit archaic in their views. Like you said, the more racing in Australia, the better. And there's things that you can do as a club. You obviously have, you and Perth kind of have the best facilities in the country. But the things that you can do hosting that event that aren't bound by the rule set that we have to adhere to for like a national title.
Yeah.
I think it gives an advantage to hosting the event, because there's things you can do that you don't, like there's certain aspects of the race meet that you guys can control 100%. So, and it's not like you're dishing up less of anything. You're not dishing up a less professional event. There's things that are cut out that are unnecessary. There's extended practice time. The format's on you guys to make fit and give the entrants the best experience, which if you're hosting a national, you're restricted. You can't do. You can't just make that up. There's a format you have to follow. So it's not a bad thing in our eyes, and we're the club that's hosting the nationals, so we don't look at it as a negative.
No, that's awesome, man. And like you're saying there, this ability to, I guess, change things up, or we're not so restrictive on a set of rule books. And the underlying thing there is, one, we're a non-profit club, and certainly I don't make any money out of it. This is all just volunteer work. But it is important that the club makes money. And if you were to talk to any club that's hosted, for instance, a World Championships, it is super difficult to make money, and a lot of money goes to the organization. And so, having a little bit more leeway and negotiation around, what happens with the expenses, just to make sure that the club makes money. And man, like we've been super lucky, and all that money's just going back into the club. Like last year, we had a club member donate all the audio equipment for the event, but this year we've been able to purchase our own brand new audio system that's now an asset for the club, for instance. So, we keep doing this event, and each year we'll be just acquiring more and more assets, and ideally, it just makes the event cheaper and easier to run, and then we've just got more money to, for instance, support some professionals coming to the race, and that just makes it more exciting for everyone.
That's the thing that's not considered in that, is that whilst this event making money, the club can take from that and build their asset base, build their club foundations, add infrastructure, add items that help you run this event to a higher standard. But also there's money involved to attract professional racers, to pay for an airfare for someone of like Ryan Lutz's stature, or in the future, hopefully world champions and like current world champions, David Ongara or Mayfield or Dakota Fenn, like the best of the best in the world. Sometimes you have to offer something for them to travel out here for a race that doesn't really mean anything to their schedule. It's a great exposure, but
totally.
they don't win a world title from coming out to Australia. It's a long way for every professional racer that's in North America or Europe. So that's a big thing. It's like, you attract better racers, you build a better event. Like, what's better than traveling to Brisbane when you live in Australia to see this year it's Ryan Pavitas and a bunch of Americans come race and New Zealand, the best guys in New Zealand, like that's going to get better every year. It'd be great if it turned into a DNC level event where guys made it a must attend. Like that would be huge for Australian racing.
Yeah, well, sky's the limit. And we've got such a good racing scene in Australia, evident by the amount of people that are going around and racing at the moment. So hopefully we can keep building on this. And, you know, to bring it back to the Nationals, I think really this is probably going to be the strongest field of races that we've ever seen, to be honest. It's going to be quite difficult to make the final. So, yeah, we definitely have we got live video and stuff happening for the Nationals, are we? Or?
We do, yeah, we do. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a clash with the organisation of the event for RC Race Media. But to my understanding, Tony from RC Race Media is attending. We have a stream, like a guy set up to do the streaming of the event. Tony will be there. Mitch obviously will be there as the commentator and race director. There's a guy running timing. So from a event perspective, we're going to have that media coverage. We're going to have the people, I think, importantly, Tony, Mitch, the guys that have been involved most recently in big events in Australia that have done successful streaming and coverage are going to be there. So hopefully,
awesome.
As a club, like we hope that everyone's going to have a good time on track and we're not really worried about that. It's going to be awesome. We hope that the rest of the event goes off just as good and everyone has a good time and there's the streaming goes well and there's publicity and there's the right people sort of doing the right thing for the sport so that our racers can get exposure as well as have a great time and just have that level of event that we've become accustomed to in Australia. Because like we're turning out high quality events, ABC on a world scale. Like if you look at Montpellier, which is like the European season starter, there was zero coverage. There was RC News or whatever putting up videos after the fact. There's no like DNC level live stream or ABC level live stream is like a distant goal. Like it's not even there. So there's big races in the world that aren't getting the coverage that like an ABC or Perth Nationals had. So we're ahead of the curve in that respect.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it costs quite a lot of money to do it, to be honest.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not that those guys are making bank either. It's not like the guys who are doing the media are like ripping anyone off.
They're doing it for the love of it.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, for us, like we need to buy a 5G multi-SIM modem so we've got internet. And I'm pretty sure everyone's probably going to be in that boat because you've got quite a lot of data that's going up. So it costs quite a bit of money. I think the modem router was like $2,000 or something for the weekend for ABC. Plus you've got all those, people coming and dedicating, a weekend of their time that need accommodation and payment as well. So it's not a cheap exercise, but the aim of the game really is just to showcase Australian racing, especially to the manufacturers. And, there's a lot of people tuning in, I think, to the Australian titles now that would never have seen that sort of racing scene. And, you look at Femke's going on at the moment and there's not really any video besides a couple of handheld iPhone videos and no interviews or anything like that. So I'm sure, the Nationals is going to be, right up there with the best sort of coverage that we've seen. And Tony's obviously all over it. I mean, he does such a good job. And the interviews and stuff that he does in the pits just gives people a bit more exposure to the story that's happening off the track. And that's probably half the reason I think why those guys are doing such a good job. Like, you look at a lot of the live streaming stuff and they focus solely just on the track. And I don't know, like if you're viewing it, like you tend to just like find when the top race is on and, tune in for that. And then you go away again. And having more off track discussions with people and them explaining what they're changing on their car and the conditions and what are the battles in the pits. That's where the entertainment is, I suppose, and probably need to make sure that we keep doing more of that. And that just exposes people to the characters in Australia and the Joel Powers of the world. And, Yeah,
He's sitting
I'm
right next
sure.
to me at the moment. Actually, he is. For
Yeah.
those that don't know, he is actually he's the president of Southern Districts who are hosting the Nationals. So he himself has put in, like I said earlier, him and Dan, the track manager. Yeah, it's probably 150 hours, and every minute of that each themselves. So yeah, exposure to the characters of RC, the people that make this stuff actually go. You know.
Yeah.
It's never the top driver. The top drivers have nothing to do with the event. You know, like they're the talent. They're what you come to watch, and they walk away with the trophy and the champagne. But it's in most cases, like your case is a bit different because you're a top driver and Jacko's a top driver, and you guys are driving ABC and Pine Hills. But in most cases, it's not those top guys that are the backbone of the situation. You know, they're the guys that are running the club and making sure stuff's organized and paid for and done to a high standard. So they're the people that we should be getting to know. You know, they're part of the scene. They're very much part of the scene.
Yeah, and it's tricky, man, because like if you were to host a nationals, for instance, 10 year ago, the standard now is so like just like you said, the expectation. I guess because the standard is so high now, the expectation is that okay, you know, Perth had everything set up. They had a great track. They had, you know, really good pits. They had good live streaming. That's the expectation. You know what I mean? So that just puts more pressure on the committee. And I'm sure those guys probably need a nice cold beer, certainly after all the weekend is said and done. But yeah, hats off to all the volunteers that make it happen. I'm looking forward to come down and join an awesome track that's obviously had a lot of man hours and probably women hours as well put into it.
It has, man. We got wives and partners and friends working in the canteen. We got no infrastructure aside from like the rostrum and all that. So there's all these people behind the scenes that are making this go. So like Joel's mum, his sister's boyfriend, a man in the canteen for 2 whole days. My wife and her sister are spending Sunday in the canteen, making sure people have got bacon, egg rolls and coffee and lunch and cold drinks. Like we're going to have a sick time. The track's going to be excellent. And hopefully everyone just has a good time racing and that we can sit back after the event or even a couple of nights during the event, have a beer, enjoy our friends and enjoy like that we're doing something that for us, all of us really is, it's a hobby that we love and we want it to be awesome. We want it to be sick. We want it to have sick coverage and sick racing and a good track and everything to just be as good as we possibly can. So yeah, we're really excited to host it and appreciate the kind words, mate, because it's
Mate,
been
so
a shitload of work from a lot of people.
I'm so keen. Yeah, and like the last nationals actually wasn't that far away. So I think we've had like 6 months break and then we're back into it.
Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for Alex, man. He gets his first national title and he gets for 6 months. So
yeah. But you know,
that's all right,
Alex
mate.
does
Earn it
Alex
again.
things. So
yeah. Go
I
win
still
it again.
haven't-
Mate. It's there.
he's going to be fast, man. So yeah, I mean, Queenslanders, man, I don't know. We're just fast. So
I've got all of your fuel, by the way, all the Queenslanders. Your fuel, Alex's fuel, Kyle's fuel. So if you want water in it, it's going in there. Like I've got control of the whole event, man.
if it's not a sealed lid, I'm not taking it.
Yeah, well, you have no fuel then. It'll all be
bring it on, mate. Should be good. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll be good.
Yes. Will we potentially see a return of Pizzagate? Could that pop back in? Is that a potential?
No. We're not doing it. Yeah, no, we're not doing it.
I don't know what the
Pizzagate.
problem was. Ben and I rocked up to the truck and we were like, hey, man, are you going to start cooking pizzas? And he's like, well, there's no one else here. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Like, you know, might as well just start cooking. They'll come. And Ben and I had like 3 pizzas maybe each. We were pretty full.
They were the problem.
And then all people turned up.
You dogs are the issue.
Our mate's like, no more pizza. You know, his like Italian accent. And,
it was Mario
was getting pretty angry.
Pizzas. All right. You've all had 2 slices. That's enough. It was like there's like 50, 40-year-old men just hungry as wanting more than 2 slices of pizza. It was hectic.
Yeah.
No, we won't have a repeat of that. You can organize your own teas. We're not doing dinner.
That's fine.
We'll try and sort something. I think we should go for a dinner some night somewhere. We'll try and organize.
We actually, there's a really nice pub. Like, it's like a minute from the track. Really nice pub. we should do a dinner one of the nights. Maybe Thursday or Friday nights. People can have a few drinks.
Yep.
Saturday night's kind of off the cards because like Zach gets pretty serious about his toy car racing, so I don't want to have a beer Saturday night. But the rest of us
Yeah.
can have a bit of fun.
I mean, I think I've got more fourth places than any driver in Australia. So we'll see. I think fourth is actually going to be like, I'd be pretty happy with fourth going into Adelaide, knowing just
Pretty
how,
stoked with the top five.
how
Yeah.
like, yeah. But yeah, damn. We'll see how we go.
As long as you bring the right tires, which I'll tell you after the event.
Oh no, I've got them. That's fine. That's not even a
Sweet,
question
bud.
anymore. So
It's all good, mate.
All right. Before we tune on to the next person, Zach, recommend or who do you think is going to be the top three, roughly?
well, there's obviously two there that we can exclude. So it's really who's going to be third. And mate, to be honest, there's a lot of really quick guys at the moment. Like Christian got third last year, and he's out there chopping up in Vietnam. So if he doesn't get Vietnam belly, and he's right and all fit, he'll be quick. Dexter, he got a win last weekend against Christian, and he's super fast. And yeah, I mean, the WA boys are going to bring some heat. And then obviously there's a field of locals in SA that all been talked about. So I'm not sure who's going to be third, but I think it's going to be pretty tight. There's probably going to be 5-6 people really going for that third position. So hopefully it's really hot and we see some flame outs and some blown diffs, and I can limp to that position in the last sort of 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unlap yourself 4 times in the last 4 minutes, eh?
That doesn't matter, mate. No one remembers that. They just remember the podium.
No one does it. They remember the podium photo. That's right, Zach. No one cares. No one cares who had an issue and finished 4th.
No, I know that because I've finished 4th more than anyone. So
I know. I finished
Here we
4th
are.
at that event, mate. Here we go.
yeah. Where did you finish at ABC? Pine Hills.
I actually don't remember.
Did you finish 4th?
Nah. It was like
Huh?
6th, maybe? 7th,
Okay.
something around
Because
there. Like,
Yeah, because I
picked the wrong
got
tyre.
caught up on the rope at the start, and then you binned like the back of my wing and rolled over, and then went to the very last position. And you actually bumped me 4 closer into third. I was like, yes.
we
that's
tangled on the like 3rd corner, and then I ended up
Yeah.
dead last. It was
Yeah.
shit because we're mates
It was
too.
the
I was
best
like,
start
man, I
ever.
didn't mean to tag you, and you're like, it's all good.
Yeah.
It wasn't your fault. I'm like, yeah, I got the raw end of the stick on that one. I actually drove
Yeah,
back
so-
to a good spot, and I had a good battle with Dexter, but then I picked the wrong tire. They went bold. Like, it was a bad choice, but I'll live with that. So yeah, I think it was 6th or 7th. Nothing to write
Right.
home about. No one cares.
So
about
what you're
7th.
saying is the tire choice is probably not your forte.
It is
and
now.
leading
I had
into
to
the
learn the hard
Nationals.
lessons for it to be
Gonna-
my forte.
gonna be
Tire
quite
choice
difficult.
is good now, mate.
good now.
Nah,
Yeah,
you
sure.
should. We evolve, Zach. We
Is
get
that
better.
because you've done a million laps on the track and you know exactly like what tire to choose between like 31-degree surface, 32-degree surface? Oh, I got to change to this thing.
Well, there's 2 things. 1, yeah, I have, and 2, I haven't driven since state titles. I said this to Mitch earlier. I only driven my car 1 time, and that was for the finals day of RCGP. And then from then, I'll drive in 2 days, and then I won't drive till Nats. But the tire choice was on point. And like Dan's saying, I don't get to pick my own tires anymore. Dan actually, at ABC, I tested I was bumping, and I was doing tire changes during mains, just testing for the main. And I had this whole plan. I tried 4 or 5 different sets, and Dan's like, "You're running these." I ran those, and then for the main, she was golden. So it's imprinted up here, mate. You can't get in there.
Yeah, no, I think Shane O'Connor's pretty much on the money there. That's probably going to be a fair bit of underpush in the final. So 1 hour. And what you are forecasting it to be relatively hot. So it's going to be like racing in Asia.
I hope it's not as hot as this weekend coming. We're like 38, 37, 36, 35. It was 34
No.
today. Like, I
That's
hope it's not
dialed.
that hot for everyone, man, because it's like
Let's-
like you guys would love it because it's dry heat, but
Yeah.
it's like it's pretty hard conditions for 8 scale cars to drive for an hour in. So
Yeah,
not
man.
easy.
All right.
Will be interesting. Alrighty, if anyone has any questions for Zach before we let him go and jump over to our next and final driver for the Nationals, chuck them in quickly. Last thing that I sort of wanted to touch on, and we sort of brushed past it before as well, the fact that Pine Hills is an oil track as well. You're going to be running a fairly similar setup between Pine Hills and what you're going to be running down in Southern Districts, Zach?
I just got some notes from last time, and I just need to go way bigger in the diffs. Luckily, Jaden Edmonds has run around in 3K all round, but I'll probably be adding a 0 to that. So yeah, probably 20s, 30 diffs, like massive diffs for sure.
Dude, I was
Maybe
50
not,
in the
maybe not to
front
start
at the
with, but once the
RCGP.
track, for sure, I'll have more straight line
Big.
acceleration than 40. And yeah, go big, mate. I think 40's pretty much caught on to that as well. Like we talk about setup a fair bit, and you know, the Euros, man. I just had a look at Canassa's setup that he ran on the Worlds track, and he was running 60, 60, 12 in his diffs. Like that just gives you an idea of how crazy they go. And the Nationals last year, I ran 30K in the center diff. Even on Perth setup, it's a bit
I
dusty.
was
but
bigger. I
man,
was
it made the car
30K in the
heaps
front
better.
diff at Nationals, man.
Yeah,
I think I was 30, 20, 15 at Perth. Like, so it's like
Yeah.
big diffs, and they're small diffs for here because
Right.
the load and the grip is so much greater. And like I said earlier to Kyle, I think he had a question. It's like if you just forget about what you think a diff is, it just splits power. And the moment the load increases, the oil needs to, like the load on the track, the oil
Yeah.
needs to increase to split the power the same way. And if you increase the load, but you think, oh, 30K is way heavy, it must be something broken. Nothing's broken. It's trying to deal with like if we have an extreme problem, we need an extreme solution. Our track is an extreme problem for grip, or will be. And to solve that, you need an extreme solution. So either you stay in your little box of what you think works, and maybe it will, or you try and solve that problem when the grip is incredibly high, and you end up quite big on the diffs, man. It's just, if you want to drive a comfortable car, that's what you have to do.
And you know, something that people sort of forget is just because you can pull the trigger quickly, and you know, people focus on when they're pulling the trigger as their lap time. You know, 50% of your lap time is in your braking, and how well you pull the car up. And when you've got a big center diff, all your braking is more 50-50 bias. You've got a lot of grip, and all the weight transfers to the front, and you've got a light diff, then your center diff actually diffs out, and then your car can have like way more front bias than rear bias, and it just makes the car super hard to brake and have control under, you know, especially high speed braking. Man, you go to a big diff. That's what I did in Perth, and like my braking was like so much better. So if you suck an ass under brakes, it's probably because your diffs in your center's too light. So yeah, probably go up, and don't be afraid to go quite big. That's my recommendation.
You got to test it. It's a hard thing to test because there's not many tracks that afford you the opportunity to test on in that condition. It normally just comes around for the main, and you're either ahead of the curve or you're behind it. And if you're behind it, hopefully you're not behind it too far. And if you're ahead of it, you're on the money.
And it's hard when you're behind it, man. Like in New Zealand, I was so far behind it, it wasn't funny. And luckily, Ben was just like, oh, man, stuff this. I'm going to go radical. And he went to all the new parts. And, you know, all the testing that we did with the new parts, the car was certainly not better than the old parts. But on that track, it was awesome. And it is hard if you get caught out and you feel like you're chasing your tail. But I guess with the Nationals, you've got the advantage of 6 qualifiers, and a couple of practice runs and a seeding run. So there's a lot of track time. Yeah, don't worry
May
too
the
much.
best
You should
man
be able to
win.
work it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
The best
figure it- if you're the be-
best Queenslander wins. So
Yeah, if you're the best guy, you'll figure it out.
All right. Bring us back on track again. We had a couple of questions and then we'll let you go, Zach. We got Aaron Dexter who's sitting patiently waiting for us to stop gibbering on. Mainly you two. You guys are just taking it away from me here. All right. Start things off quickly and we're going to shoot through these as well. What do you think of medium tyres as all I ran at the Queensland titles? What are your thoughts on that, Mr.
Probably
Ford?
not.
Yeah, I mean, only if the track is like really, really
Maybe
grippy.
if it's hot as hell and it's really grippy,
Yeah.
but other than that, no.
So probably have to
Yeah.
change over to a clay tire of some sort at least. But as you
Clay
mentioned,
or a softer, like it depends on the brand of tire. I run like AK or Proline, and I got experience with like team guys here run 6MIC and a couple of brands. So Zach runs JC, Aaron runs JC, so I get to hear a bit of all of it. It depends on the brand, but in Proline, so like an S3 is like the hardest tire they do at the moment, and AK is a medium long wear. If it's super hot and the track's really high grip, yes, but otherwise,
Yeah.
no. If it's cold, no, because they'll feel good, but they'll just be a bit slow, and you won't know why you're slow. So you could bring them. Will they work? Not all weekend, and probably only in the mains if it's really hot.
right.
Yeah.
So recommendation would probably just buy a set. You mentioned before as well, tire wear is super low. So you can probably get away with a set of tires for multiple runs, if not up to the weekend. Is that a bit of a stretch?
You could run, like I'm not even exaggerating. If you came to the event with one set of tires, you could run those. And if they were M3, you could run that the whole weekend, 4 days, and they would not be worn out. The difficulty there is that from Thursday to Sunday, the track will change. So your tire, you will need to change tires, patterns and compound, but that'll just be with the track evolution. But there's no wear. So anything you bring, you'll probably go home with slightly oily, but still brand new.
Right. All right. Jumping over to the next one. We got Martin here. He's got a question. Am I going to win the PM 24? Philippine Masters
in Truggy?
2024. Yeah, in truck.
Yeah.
He does classify that as well.
Probably not. Well, like, didn't Mika Wittemeyer win it?
Yeah. No. Is he going to win? I don't know.
Philippine
I think
Masters. Not if like Mika Wittemeyer or one of those dudes races. They'll like Martin doesn't. They're like top level races.
No, Martin's the silver fox, mate.
You reckon
know.
he's maybe it's a truggy too. He's
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like to doubt him. He's very good.
I think as long as he gets the right prescription glasses so he can see out the back.
Track will be too deep for him, I think.
I think especially with his son in the pits, like on the mic, like, come on, Dad, seriously, are you crashing again? Like, because you can imagine the words that Martin puts in. You know what I mean? Like,
lacquer, isn't it?
Christian, like, just like touches the rope. You could imagine he's like, the mic's down. You know, what are you doing?
I hope Christian is just feeding Martin the whole main, every mistake, every foot wrong. Give it to him in the most filthy South African accent he has.
Yeah, I mean, he won't be angry. He'll just be disappointed. You know, if Martin makes a mistake, he won't get angry. Just disappointed.
Yeah.
Alrighty. That will pretty much wrap us up. If we keep talking, we'll send Aaron Dexter off to bed, and that's 2 hours behind us. So thank you very much, Zach Ryan. Really appreciate you for jumping on and having a good chinwag and discussing at least a little bit about what we're expecting down at the Southern Districts.
All right, thanks for having me on, boys, and I'll see you in SA a couple of weeks.
See you, Zach. I'm gonna go toilet break again, Mitch.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Not a problem at all. All right. Well,
maybe chuck me out.
Yeah. Gotcha. All righty. Before we actually jump on to Aaron as well, I need 2 seconds here. I have to say a big thank you to everyone. Also, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but we are at 999 followers. Be the 1,000th. If you haven't followed us yet, guys, be the 1,000th follower. So in that as well, okay, let's introduce Mr. Aaron Dexter to the stage. G'day, Aaron. How's it going? Thank you very much for your patience.
No, you're right. Thanks for having me on, Mitch.
Those boys were just chatting away. Far out. Never seen two boys just chat away on someone else's podcast. It's so long.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said you was co-host, not the host. But nah, yeah, I knew those boys could chat, but wow.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, they just didn't want to stop for ages, eh? Nah, good to have you on as well, mate. So you are all the way from over in Western Australia, but I know you actually have raced at the Southern Districts track a couple of times, to my knowledge, haven't you?
Yep, for sure. Been to the RCGP races that they've had the last few years running, state champs, the last nationals that they had there. I think that might have been my first one actually, but yeah, we've been there a few times. And yeah, obviously being home for 40 and all those TLR boys, it's always a good time over there. So looking forward to get back.
Right. And you mentioned the TLR side of things. You somewhat recently changed over to the TLR vehicles, didn't you?
Yeah, it was probably 4 to 5 weeks before last year's nationals, so it was a pretty late change. But obviously, 40'd been kind of pursuing me for a number of years, and I was kind of in the mindset for a change, and thought, why not get a car, try it, see how I feel about it, and I think it went pretty smoothly. Being nationals being my first big race, I'd only done probably 2 days at the track before the nationals, so I was pretty happy with how everything went, for sure.
Yeah, no, and fair enough as well. Definitely a bit of a learning curve when you're swapping over to a new brand and chucking it straight out on track virtually at a nationals. I guess it would be probably almost a little bit daunting in a lot of ways without having that sort of experience, especially being, I guess, a home track. It probably compounds things a fair few ways. Probably had a bit of expectation on your shoulders in a way, or were you sort of fairly comfortable going into the weekend, even knowing you had a fairly new car?
Yeah, I think, obviously the support from 40 was there straight away. He was always checking in. We got a lot of learning under my belt before that race, having the 2 practice sessions. But I think there was always going to be a little bit of pressure. It's always got a bit more pressure with your home track, but probably mostly that I put on myself. Being with A beforehand, and it's a really popular car. Alex is doing great with it. Jaden's doing great with it. It's probably looked at a little bit differently, like, oh, what's wrong with the car? Is it the car? Or, it wasn't the car. It was just a personal decision. And, I have no regrets. It was one of the best things I've done. The team support's great, and we have a lot of fun with it. So.
Right. And we'll bring 40 back in as well now. He's got his gun still out and back into it.
So hot here, man. I'm sorry. Hey, Aaron.
How you doing, mate?
How you doing, cutie? You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
Actually, quick question for you, Andrew, before we go too much further. And this is a really annoying question from Mr. Tony Watson. Is a raffle going to be broadcast live? Now, I have a rule that Tony should not be allowed to buy raffle tickets because the amount of prizes he's won in the past is ridiculous. Considering the amount of raffle tickets that I purchased and haven't won crap, this guy should not be allowed to buy any tickets.
That's a great question. Obviously, for our raffle, it's online as well as at the event. So someone potentially can win all the prizes and not actually be there. I don't know if it'll be live broadcast. That's something I might bring to the committee that we should consider doing. But I would probably bank on it not being broadcast. But for anyone who's entering the raffle and isn't going to be there, we will take the highest value prize for you. So we'll do a good job at not picking something. If you win first prize, we're going to give you the most valuable item. So yeah, we'll do that on your behalf because we will send it out, send out the prize after the fact. But live broadcast, I don't think so, Tony. You probably win all of them, mate, and I'll just pick all the expensive stuff and you can have that, all right?
No, I will not allow that. Oh, I was just saying. Oh, geez. Look at these messages. Yeah, he was talking crap.
He's on the ball, Martin.
Message from Jacko, put the guns away. Yep.
Jacko loves
Yeah. And Tony back at us again. Thank you, Andrew. Don't let Mitch lose,
it. I got
please.
you back, Tony. It's all right.
Oh, I'm gonna throw fists for someone if he wins.
Don't if you could probably petition to draw the raffle, Mitch, and you could just read out your name every time.
Yeah, that could work. Yeah, I mean, all right.
Got to get
we'll-
you into
we'll-
8 scale somehow.
Yeah, we got to work something out.
Yeah.
You can win
I
a
love
whole
it.
setup here, mate, if you want.
I'll have a drive at the ABC. I'm waiting to work out something because I have the electronics. I like my 8CL driving, but I just don't get around to it too much. I don't get around to driving too much, to be perfectly honest, at the
Mitch,
moment.
if you're
But
if you're serious, Mitch, I reckon between our team we could scrounge together an 8 scale electric to send you to race for the event.
Yeah, right. I'll
Easily,
we'll know how to chat
easily
about
done, mate. If you need a car, I'll get an 8 scale EP sent up to you nice and early. You can run it, practice with it, do what you want. You can
That
be a
sounded good.
TLR driver for one event, mate.
Yeah,
How
right.
do you
All right.
like the sound of that? All right.
We'll have a chat later. Okay.
Off air. Yeah, organised contract. Yeah, I get you.
Alrighty. Back into it. So, Aaron recently had a good event actually at the new track of the Collie RC Club, and you took the win in that. Tell us about the new club that's, well, not new club, but the new track at Collie.
Yeah, the club's been around for a little while. Obviously, so to give you a bit of background, I'm 2 hours south of Perth. So for for all my racing career, I've had to drive 2 hours to the track, right? For a practice, 2 hours there, 2 hours back. And there was a couple of us that do it down here. You know, not only my dad and my brother, but Gav Cycling and Vonnie, who've been doing it consistently the last few years. And we've kind of been playing with the idea, why don't we build a nitro track out at Collie, which is where I work and 45 minutes away, right? So, yeah, we kind of got some plans together. We managed to get some land kind of gifted to us in a way. Got a couple of grants for fundraising, did a bunch of Bunnings, sausage sizzles, and raised some funds. We were sharing like a 10 scale track that we built kind of off to the side of the BMX track that we ran there for a few years. So it was all just in an attempt, to raise money to get this bigger track going. So we've finally gotten there. There's been a lot of work in the last 12 months getting that all built. A lot of it being my dad and I, Vonnie, Gav for the engineering drawings. There's a heap of people with the entire Collie Club that have worked really hard to get that going together. So it's really good to see, finally that we've been able to hold a big race. The numbers were a little bit low, but it was just good to finally see that, I guess the dream come into a reality. So it was really, really good.
Yeah. No, it's good to see what looks to be a pretty, incredible infrastructure they've done there. I've been sort of following the progress, the shipping containers going in, the concrete going down, the whole works. And it's been really good to actually watch on pretty much a club that's been running for such a long time build up this new track and that sort of side of things, new facility, and really upgrade what they had to what they have now. So, Collie RC Club, I think it is on Facebook. If you haven't already, jump on there, help them out in any way you possibly can, especially for the Western Australian guys. On that as well, in certain terms at least, 2018 we had quite a large event in Australia, and I want to sort of discuss a little bit of this as well. We actually had the IFMAR Worlds over here, and you were part of that, or in it as well. I think from what I can remember, you ended up 9th in the quarter even final, and that was against some pretty large names. Tell me a little bit about the experience of actually racing, not just in a world titles, but in a world titles that's quite literally in your backyard. How did that sort of experience go down for you?
Yeah, that's a trip down memory lane. Can't believe it was so long ago already. It's kind of flown by. Yeah, for sure. Like, you know, the entire lead up to that was kind of, well, it was massive. You know, there was a lot of money that my dad put into it. You know, I was still in school, so he was flying me and my brother around, you know, getting us to all these races to try and race at the Worlds. And it was a lot of time and effort. And, you know, I think the club at the time, the committee at the time, did an amazing job with what they had. You know, it's still going to be one of the best races I've been to in my life, you know, being a world championship, but a home Worlds is like not even just home country, but like home track is pretty crazy. So I think, you know, all you 10 scale guys are going to be pretty lucky to have one over at Castle Hill, I think it is, isn't it? So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that progresses for them as well. I'm sure it'll be much the same. You know, you'll get a lot of support from everyone around the country to make it a, you know, a great event, one to remember. So
Yeah, I mean, we had a chat with Clive and also club president from Hills just I think it was a week and a half ago from now, and you know, they discussed the fact that so many people from around Australia actually come together to try and, you know, help put the event on and that sort of things, which is awesome to see, and it really is part of the Australian community that sort of makes that work. Whereas in a lot of other countries, they sort of just have their own club or whether it be a business even, and they just sort of put the event on. They don't need the outside help. Sometimes they get the odd hand here and there. I know Hobby Action, they had a fair few people that lended hands, whether it be like, you know, tie scrutineering, that sort of side of things. But, you know, for Australia, we have to have those helping hands. And we saw that firsthand from over in Western Australia, which was really awesome to see. And as you mentioned there, pretty much ran through it. Your experience actually on the track itself. So from the quarter even final, and I have it here, like just to put a couple of names into it. McBride, Cole Ogden, Cole Tollard, Atsushihara, Joe Bornhorst, Ryan Lutz, all in your race, and you actually beat a couple of those guys as well. What was that experience like racing against, you know, the world's elite for our hobby?
yeah, pretty crazy actually. I think from memory, you know, through qualifying, I was somewhat comfortable with the car. You know, we were changing things every race and trying to get a bit of a feel. Obviously, being home track, we had an idea of what tyres we wanted to run in what conditions. That was a massive advantage. And I remember quite vividly, there was one of the qualifiers coming into the night time, and I remember hearing, you know, we were warming up the cars and they're like, oh, what tyres you got on? Blue Reflex or like R2 Reflex even, which is the long way soft compound that we've got, or we had at the time. And I'm there with like a super soft Reflex because I know as soon as the sun goes down, it gets a little bit greasy and the moisture stays in it. It doesn't dry out like it has all day long. And that was my best qualifying round of the weekend, right? Or of the week. But yeah, going into finals, I was straight into the 8th, was it? Yeah. And yeah, that was, again, one of the craziest races in my life. You know, I'd already kind of beaten all the people that I wanted to beat, if that makes sense. Like all the other
Yep.
Aussies, Painey, you know, Lawton, 40, all those guys. I'd already beaten them, so I was pretty stoked, just making it to Sunday even. But I remember in the last qualifier as well, the car was really soft, and we didn't have a lot of time to change it. Really, I couldn't really think of something to change. Ended up just putting super thick sway bars on it to just stiffen it all out in a harder tire, and just drove it. And it ended up being one of the best drives I'd ever done. You know, I remember racing really hard with Misha and Hara and Lee Martin. You know, there's a fair few big names there. Was it the 8th? Must have been the 8th, because I bumped into the quarters. So the 8th, it was a fight, less than half a second gap to the line for the win in that 8th final with Misha, and that was pretty crazy when I look back at that now. So yeah, no, it was a wicked experience. And I've had more since then, which is really good. But yeah, I'll never forget that 8th final there. That was probably one of the better races of my life, especially at the time with the skill level that I had at that point. You know, it's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, no, an incredible experience. And I've been lucky enough to go to a couple of 10 scale worlds, and it is just a privilege to be able to sort of see these guys compete, and for yourself to be able to actually compete against them. Something that I probably will never be able to acclaim to, which is fine. I can live with that. So we mentioned before that you have actually raced a couple of times over at Southern Districts and stuff. You have a bit of knowledge when it comes to the track and stuff. And you, as you mentioned before, you're going to get a fair bit of setup knowledge from Andrew Ford. How confident are you coming into the weekend with your positioning and stuff?
Yeah, we were talking about it the other day. This last weekend, I was pretty well running the same setup that I went to, or that we ended up on at the state titles over there back in, what was it, December?
Yeah.
So, like, geometry wise, you know, a lot of things haven't changed. The diffs are pretty close. The tire is the same. So I'm practically running what I would be running over there, but at the collie track. So, I mean, that kind of gives you a bit of an idea of the grip level at collie at the moment. It isn't oil. It's just a natural clay surface, but with it dried out so much, the grip is through the roof.
Right.
So after the weekend, I went to the track last night. Was it? I think it was last night before. Either or. Did a few more changes that we wanted to try. We got a couple of little bits made up and gave that all a test, and it was really, really good. So I'm feeling pretty confident. I know the tyre situation is going to be good. I got the tyres that I tested last time for this race coming, the Nationals. So I think I'm set in that department. It's just a matter of me being there mentally now and just driving good, you know. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, no, fair enough, and solid answers there as well. Like, going to an event, I guess, in the past has definitely got its helps, I guess, in a lot of ways. The fact that you went to the South Australia titles and having that sort of setup knowledge from a local driver from Andrew Ford, it must be a massive benefit as well. So you pretty much have your setup locked in. You're going to be running that at least for the first round, possible changing after that, depending on, I guess, situation and stuff. Where do you sort of see yourself hopefully ending up? Do you ever go into a weekend hoping for, a minimum of the top 5 or something like that?
I think after the disappointment that I had last year, I mean, I had one of my best qualifying efforts, qualified 3rd overall with a round TQ. Had a killer run in the semi, was leading majority of the semi until a bit of a questionable pass. And then, carried on, got second in that, and had a clean start in the final. Was just keeping in touch with Kyle and Alex, and then everything fell apart. So it was a tough one to swallow. I've thought about it a lot. I've fixed those issues and tried really hard to eliminate that, move on from it, try not to think about it again, and just go into the next race with no expectations. So we'll see how that works out.
All right, and we got a question here once again from Tony. Is Aaron racing at 10 scale states? You don't do a huge amount of racing, do you?
I don't do any 10 scale. Nah. I did for a little bit, but again, like our local track was 2 hours away, and I just didn't see the value in driving all that way, doing 30 minutes of the run time, and then coming back home. Like, it's just too far for the little amount of track time. So maybe with Collie up and running, it's only 40 minutes away, 45 minutes away. I might look at doing a bit more of it. Probably won't commit to doing the Worlds. The thought crossed my mind is when I heard, but I just don't think that I'll be able to fully commit to that properly. So, no, in answer to that.
Yeah.
We
It's
could always
interesting as-
do worlds, and you could just be the driver, and I'll be the pit guy. We'll just drink beers, and I'll set your car up.
You know I got a rubber arm, eh? We're probably
not-
good.
You're not the first driver as well, 8 scale predominantly, that sort of gone, oh, I've thought about it and prioritize the 8 scale side of things. Actually, Jaden from before, I had a personal chat with him, I think at Queensland Titles, and he said virtually the exact same thing. He thought about it, but he'd rather just prioritize the 8 scale side of things. What do you have for a reason behind that? Is it sort of a bit of a money thing, or is it just you just want to go full focus on 8 scale and that's it?
I don't know. It's not the money, or the time off work or anything else. I think it's just I kind of find it boring, if I'm honest. Like, nitro. I'm just being honest, man. It's
Honesty is best.
hey, yeah. I'll probably get some hate for that, but I don't really care. To be
Don't
fair,
worry, Aaron. I'm with you.
yeah. Well, yeah, all the things that happen in nitro. You got fuel stops, flameouts, longer finals. So much can happen, yes, in a 5-minute final, but you get hit once and your race is over from someone else's mistake. In nitro, you can get hit a couple of times and still make it back. You've got time to, get back in the fight, and it might not even be your fault, but I just find the adrenaline is a lot higher with nitro. There's a lot more things you have to get right, in my opinion, being the tune, a tire that lasts, 45 minutes or an hour, clutch settings, shocks. Again, you want the whole car to be good at every point in the race in an hour-long final. Like that challenge, you're going to have to make sacrifices. You're going to have to, find the balance between when you want a better car. And for me, that's always at the end.
Yeah.
So, I just find the more technical side of it more interesting to me. And
Right.
It's such a different
Scale's
discipline,
fun,
isn't
but
it? Really, like
it is.
At,
I mean,
at
there's
the end of the
nothing.
day, like, sorry, yeah.
No, you're good. You go.
I was gonna say, like, at the end of the day, like, there's so many things that cross over. Like, we're driving cars in both sports. We're doing a similar qualifying style of format, even though it's different length, but it's the same kind of thing. We're doing grid start mains. Like, there's lots that crosses over, but there's also this whole section of nitro that you just don't have that in any electric form of racing. You don't get it. And I agree. Like, I think the biggest difference between nitro and 10 scale is people that love 10 scale like a different aspect of RC than guys who like nitro. Nitro is like, there's so many things to get right. And if you get one of them wrong, you're done, and it has nothing to do with your ability. If you can't tune an engine, or you can't like bulletproof a car, and all of those things work together, you cannot win. But if you can win. And in 10 scale, a lot of those longevity things don't really come into it. They're looking for absolute outright pace. Can you hold on for 5 minutes? It's intense, it's short. It's a very different discipline in that aspect. Like with Aaron, I find that not boring, because the guys who do it exceptionally are incredibly skilled. It's not a slight on anyone who likes it. It's just you like what you like. But for me, I find way more satisfaction in the 45-minute or hour main where everything went perfect and you had a battle for 30 minutes and you come out on top. Like, that is like the ultimate, I think.
For sure. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and I know I have referenced it a couple of times in the past that a Nitro A main, especially the Nationals being an hour-long main, it's quite literally a marathon event. You're setting your car up so that way it's not going to fall apart, at least the best of your abilities. You Loctiting every screw and that sort of side of things, just to make sure that it will not fall apart. Whereas I think in certain ways you probably do get a little bit lazy in 10 scale. I know I do, because my car falls apart almost every second race. But for that Nitro A main, you sort of need to know that your car, just like small things that could hamper a race or ruin your race, aren't going to go wrong, a screw being too loose or something like that. So I can completely understand where you're both coming from when it comes to thinking that sort of 10 scale isn't as exciting, especially that long period race. I think you're both
Dude,
wrong.
it's
but-
like to touch on that, like for 1 second, this gets glossed over a lot. But like if you race nitro in any capacity, what Kyle did by winning, was it 10 or 11 straight national titles? Right? Was it 11 or 10? I don't want to stuff it
I think
up.
it was 11. It was
I
11.
think it was 11, right?
yeah, going for his
Like-
12th. Yeah.
Yeah.
From a driving skill perspective, to win that many, you have to be so elite, it's not funny. But from the other side of it, like to win that many in a row without an issue, if you think about that, not only is that 10 hours of mains or 11 hours of mains, but it's all the semifinals, which are half an hour, right, of issue-free racing for him to win that. It is
He did.
Yeah, we lost him. I think his headphones must have dropped
Yeah,
out.
died.
Sorry, did it drop out?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, sorry, my AirPod died. It's like it's unfathomable that they had that many years in a row of that much. It's not good luck. It's like elite preparation. It's
Yeah.
so unfathomable that you could have that much dominance from talent and from reliability. It's like anyone who's raced nitro, it's hard enough to finish a weekend without an issue. Do 11 years of dominating a class, winning hour mains. Like he's not ever winning after 10 minutes. He has to drive an hour. Like, and that's
Crazy.
just buggy. Like unbelievable amount of prep that goes into that. I think that's one of the most phenomenal feats of racing that you'll come across.
Yeah. A bit of an off-topic question here. I'm pretty sure it must be a fairly new person to the hobby. I believe it is money related. How much you guys put into your RC buggies? I'm guessing that's a money related question. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't think of much else that it could potentially be in reference to. Other than maybe fuel, how much you're putting fuel-wise in. But money-wise, I'd say for an 8 scale, for a full brand new setup, I mean, a car alone, you're looking at about 1,200, is it, roughly? 12 to 1,300?
Yeah,
chassis?
yeah, for just a rolling chassis. To have a running car, like with the best gear, you won't get much change from like 2.5, 3 grand. Like if you want to do a proper
pretty
setup
bad.
with some pit tools and stuff, like 3K. But I kind of know, but I don't really. I'd hate to know what my racing costs a year. Like it would be. It's an expensive. It's cheap for racing, but it's an expensive thing to do it. I think for nitro, to do it well, you have to do preventative maintenance. You're not doing like I worked in aircraft for a while, right? And like there's no such thing as maintenance on aircraft. It's all preventative maintenance. Things are done before stuff goes wrong, because when stuff goes wrong, people die. So in toy cars, it's like for nitro, it's preventative because you have to be ahead of stuff failing to finish. So the amount of money you invest in everything in your program, making sure your engines aren't just working, but in great working order, makes it quite a, like, you just have to be prepared, and I think you have to spend a bit of money to be at the top end of it and race a lot. The guys that race every weekend, there's a lot of money going into that. I'd hate to know what it is a year, but it's in the, probably in the tens of thousands, you know.
I don't want to do the math.
For entry
You can
level,
travel in that too.
yeah, travel and stuff. That's where it gets
Travel
really
in that.
pricey.
Yeah,
for-
travel is huge.
For an
It's huge.
entry-level driver, the second-hand market is probably the best place to look. If you are just experimenting with a hobby, if you're just trying something new, pick up yourself a decent second-hand car. As we mentioned before with Zach Ryan, he has a great video on, beginners to the RC hobby. Have a look at that video. Sort of follow the main brands, but pick up a second-hand car. Just test the waters at least. And if you find that you're enjoying the hobby, go to the local hobby shop, support them, and buy a brand new kit, and get into it even harder. That's I guess the best part about a hobby. For an entry level race, you can make yourself cheaper to get into the hobby, and quite a lot of time. I mean, I've been racing a second hand car. I took it over to the Worlds. I didn't make myself any more competitive or less competitive, to be honest, if I had a brand new car. But it's just a sort of good way to get into the hobby, I'd say. Once you're comfortably into it, by all means, buy those brand new cars from support our local hobby shops.
Yeah.
I hope that's in reference to your question. Nonetheless, we will move on forward. Let's see. Back to our questions. Well, we have actually covered majority of our sort of questions. So if anyone from the comments does want to ask anything to Aaron or even Andrew at this point, before we start wrapping things up, we have been on stream for 2.5 hours. God damn. But yeah, any other comments you want to make as well, Aaron? Yeah, Aaron Dexter.
Not off the top of my head, really. I mean, yeah, I can't really think of anything. From what I've seen of the track, just little glimpses. I know the guys are doing a great job. It looks pretty challenging. I think looks like there's a lot of rhythm to it. 40 can correct me if I'm wrong, but looks like there's a fair bit of or a fair few rhythm sections. So should be interesting, I think. Yeah, we shall see.
It's going to be a good track, man. There's like I said earlier, there's rhythm, there's flow, there's continuing apex corners, there's options there for jump sections for the slower guys and the faster guys to take risk or play it safe. I mean, it's going to be an interesting track. We'll know a lot more on Sunday. Obviously, none of us, aside from testing jumps when they were jump faces when they were built. And when I say testing jumps, I mean quite literally testing a jump section with the rest of the track not even drivable. Like, it's not rolled, it's not prepped. You're testing a dusty jump that no one's driven on the track aside from people who aren't entered in the event. So we, the community that is racing the Nationals, will get a much better idea this Sunday. We'll have an idea, but the track looks like it. I'm so excited. It's going to be such a good track for not only beginners, the intermediate level guys, the A-level guys. From a racing perspective, there's passing opportunities, there's option lines, there's flow, there's tech. The grip's going to be good. The tire wear is going to be low. It's going to be a great Nationals. I'm excited to see the finals go on, see who wins, and whoever wins it, like always, but especially this time, will be exceptionally deserving because it's going to be tough. Like, there's going to be challenges thrown up with not only the track itself, but also like the surface, how much grip there is, people getting setups right, tire choice. There's I know personally from this track, all tires work. This is like the difficult thing about oil. Everything works. Some tires you'll throw on the car and it'll be half a second a lap faster and you don't even know where the speed came from. It's just the tread pattern or the compound. So everyone's going to be able to get around. There's not going to be guys just doing donuts, but when you make the right decision, you could be ahead of a guy that you're battling with. And if you make the wrong choice, you'll be behind him. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, you still haven't learned how to pick the right tire, have you?
I did. Yeah, we've been through this, Aaron. I did the other week.
I heard you before. I had to bring it up again.
Yeah. It'll be sweet this time, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just do what Dan tells you.
Yeah, you think I've given you the good setup. You wait.
Dude, I know it's a good setup. It's okay.
If I've given you the bad one, you'd hate to see the good one.
Okay. I can't wait to beat you with the bad one when you've got the good one.
Yeah.
The clap back. Oh, good. No questions coming in at the moment. Once again, last call for questions before we wrap things up. But yeah, just from a self standpoint, I really appreciate both you guys jumping on, especially Andrew jumping on the entire 2 hours minus a couple of minutes here and there for the odd toilet break and dropping out of audio here and there. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you both jumping on, especially Andrew. So, but
Aaron, thanks for having me. But also, it's like 35 degrees. I've been drinking water all day in an office. That's like toilet breaks are mandatory. So I appreciate having me on, man. It's been good.
Get Mr. Power on here. Is he still close by?
Yeah. You want to
get him in here.
Yeah. He's the club president.
In. Yeah, get the club president in here. He should be on here as well.
G'day. How you going?
Yeah, good yourself, mate.
Yeah, good, thanks, man. Good. I've just been watching the stream, sitting next to 40, doing a bit of a rebuild.
Yeah. That's probably why I can hear it playing in the background there. I thought it might be.
I could hear something.
It's probably just
you hear the Hitachi going off.
Yep.
Classic. No, good stuff, man. Wicked stream, Mitch. Good on you, man. I really
No,
appreciate you getting on board doing this stuff, bro.
No, thank
It's
you
epic.
guys. I'm really looking forward to the event, and all this chat and stuff has made me even more excited for what is going to be a great week. So,
Oh man, yeah. Look, if there's not many things that I can guarantee in life, man. But you guys come down to Adelaide in a couple of weeks, and you're gonna have a good time. I'll put a lot on that. It'll be a sick event. Like we're doing the best we can. It's a fresh committee, bro. I've only been on board for 2 months. There wasn't heaps of prior organisation. The previous committee had a lot on their plate already. There's a lot of things they are dealing with. But we've just come together, and like the support from our members, the support from our committee, man, is just unparalleled. Like there's no chance, as much as Dan and I have been putting in heaps of work, but if it was just the two of us, man, this event's not happening. The stuff, Andrew's very humble, but the things Andrew's doing behind the scenes, organisation wise, getting in contact with people like Aaron and Reese Hendy, Zach Ryan, like all of that organisation is just so far out of my league. It's unreal, man. We wouldn't be able to do it. So it's a huge group effort, man, to get to where we are. And I think come race day, man, it's all going to show. It's going to be sick.
No, I'm super keen. I'm looking forward to it, to say the least. I really appreciate what you guys are doing down there. I know the amount of effort that goes into running large events. I've been on part of the committee a couple of times in the past and stuff, and running a national titles, it's right up there with one of the most difficult things you can do, especially for people that aren't getting paid for the work that they do. And Ford before was saying the amount of hours you guys are putting into the actual track changes, the lead up to the event and stuff is just exceptional. What would on a day-to-day job be probably giving you a couple of grand and that sort of things. You're just doing it just to, help to promote the actual hobby itself. So
absolutely, man. Dan and myself both run a business. Dan's a little bit more fortunate. He's got a bit more flexibility with what he does, and like I'm just getting down there as much as I can to help him. But like you wouldn't be able to measure the time that he's spent on that track. We've done a lot of trial and error the start of this year, just learning the dirt. Over the years, there's been different dirt brought in to create new jumps. So each time we dig something up and we try to reshape, it's a new bit of temperament we need to play with. I'm a carpenter, man. I'm just a casual old chippy. I haven't got heaps of dirt experience. I don't have machine experience. I build a house. That's about it. But Dan's really knowledgeable in that stuff, and I'm just there to put in the hard yards, man. And it's coming along sick. Just learning about the methods, how much we need to use the oil, how much we should be rolling it, just paying attention to the track and learning. And like, as much as we're going to have a sick track, man, the kick is going to be that if you roll up to that joint on Monday after Nationals, bro, you're going to see the best track we'll see all weekend. Like the more tires that hit that surface, the better and better it's going to be. It'll be absolutely elite.
Yeah. No, I cannot wait.
Yeah, dude. Oh, mate, absolutely. It'll be spectacular.
You got it buzzing, eh?
Oh, dude, absolutely. I'm so excited, man. Like, we have put so much work into it, and like, now it's getting so close. We're up to dressing the final bits and pieces of the facility. We're final rolls. We've got this really cool little push roller that the club's had for a while. It's just like a little stationary engine push roller, and it just brings the surface to this butter, man. It's like billiard table style finish. It's unreal. So now that we're getting to that fine tuning part of the job, it's so rewarding, And I think everyone's gonna be pumped. That's the main thing. Just come down, have fun. It's gonna be sick nationals. It's gonna be crazy racing to watch. Like I'm not one of the fast guys, man. I'm gonna be sitting back watching that A main, having a time. It's gonna be awesome.
Beer in hand.
Yeah. If not, I'll be fuel bottle in hand, sweating, trying to pip somebody. It'll be sick.
Shit.
Okay. All right. We'll start to wrap things up, guys. I really appreciate you all jumping on. Make sure if Ford is still around, thank you very much for jumping on for this whole time. He's still here. Thank you very much, Fordy. I don't know what's going on in that house, but it's worrying.
Good time, man.
It's a classic Friday night.
Alrighty, guys. No, thank you all so much for joining us, and big thanks, obviously, to the other guys that have been on, Zach Ryan and Jaden Emmons, along in the earlier in the show as well.
Also, Mitch,
yeah.
before we go, Mitch,
Yep.
anyone who's watching, there is a raffle. It's online. Jump on the website, buy it. I'd like to thank our sponsors for the event: OMP, TLR, OS, aka Spectrum, Proline. All of our raffle sponsors: Campbelltown Hobbies, Plague Bearings, RC Hobby Zone, Scott's RC Designs, Invisible Speed, Hearns Hobbies and the Hobby Man, Hobbies Australia. Thank you. All those people have donated money just so our club can make some money, run a good event. So thank you very much to every single one of those people behind those companies. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you to Mitch, man. Good on you for doing this kind of stuff, bro. Nobody else is doing this, man. And like, you know, we want exposure. We all demand exposure, and let's get streaming, and let's get this, let's get that. But it's all of this little stuff in between, man, is what makes the difference. This is how we get the sport scene. This is how people find out about clubs like Adelaide or clubs like Perth. You know, like it's a really, really cool thing, man. It's super good. No, thank you, man. It's awesome.
I appreciate it. And last one here, or Beal. Tell Joel or 40, share some pics of the track.
Oh, you can go back on the Facebook and have a look at my little shirtless video. There's a little glimpse in the background.
Two things. One, I would assume that's Louisa, not Ty.
Yeah.
And secondly, you'll see photos of the track in good time, my friend. It will be. We want to make sure it's perfect. We'll show some photos when it's dressed up. It's pretty, and you guys will have plenty of time to do in your head laps.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be good.
We're all doing in our head laps, man. It's 2 minutes down the road. I'm still doing in my head laps.
No one's done actual laps yet.
I'm standing on the rostrum with my fake radio the whole show. Yeah. You're seeing Invisible Speed.
My boss actually, and once again, my boss races a fair, but he's helped me out a heap, Mr. Dominic Blackman from Hybrid Landscapes. He literally printed out, I think he was going down to South Australia 10 scale titles. He printed out an A4 piece of paper of the track layout and sticky taped it to his roof. So that way he could just about dream about it as he was racing.
That's commitment.
That's
man.
the commitment we need in the sport, man. That's ambitious.
Yeah.
I've got it on my eyelids when I go to bed.
Yeah.
Parting laps, holding that trophy, just praying.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
All right,
Exactly, man. Exactly. Oh, one of those dreams.
Yeah. Popping champagne.
Yeah.
Alrighty, wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much for jumping on, guys. I really appreciate it. This has been an awesome night, and I cannot wait to get down there, and it's going to be an awesome event.
Awesome, man. We look forward to seeing everyone.
Yeah, see you
Thanks
in
for
a
having
few
me on,
weeks,
man.
Get those
Thank you,
rebuilds,
guys.
fellas.
Wait,
We'll see
Matt's
you
got a
all
question. Who's the best pit man at the event?
Yeah.
Not you, Matt.
Oh, it depends if I'm watching or pitting in the main.
Anyway, if he does a good job for me, then yeah, Matt for sure.
Far out.
Classic.
All right, that's it.
Wicked.
Wrap it
Cheers,
up. Wrap
boys.
it up.
Yeah,
We'll
wrap
see
it up,
you
wrap it up.
later.
See you, fellas.
I'm gonna
See you
take
later.
my to work. See you guys.
On you.
See you,
Catch
boys.
you, Dexter. Legend.
Catch you, mate. See ya.
See you, Aaron. Nice hair.
Thanks.